Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Joe Boy's serve. Franklin from off the net. Rodriguez with the dig. Murray roll shot.
Here's the snap. Milrose stands in. Loads up long. Looking. Got him. Touchdown. Touchdown. Isaiah Bond.
Gabriel to throw. Deep shot. He's got Anderson open. He's in again. He did it again. Nick Anderson. Touchdown Sooners. 42 yards.
Here's a snap to go, hand it off, and up the middle, this may be all the way. 20, 10, can't catch him. Goal line, touchdown, Bucky Irving.
May in the shotgun, snap comes, knee high. May standing in the pocket, hit as he throws, and it is picked off.
Did he get it?
It's picked off. Virginia got it. James Jackson. James Jackson. Holy wahoo. They're gonna do it.
Viewers from the gun looking over the Cougar defense, hands it to Baxter, pulls it back in down the sidelines for Worthy. He caught it. Touchdown, Texas. What a great play fake. Quinn Ewers, 42 yards down the boundary. X marks the spot for a second Longhorn touchdown.
The guy run Bonner. Pull back in, but Harburg, he's taking a shot downfield, wide open end zone, caught, touchdown. It's Malachi Coleman.
And I told them, well, it ain't pretty. Well, it wasn't the prettiest of games. It's a win. It's a win. It's a win.
It's a win. It's a win. It's a win here on a Monday morning on Hurrdat Sports Radio. I'm Ravi Lulla. Andrew Rogers here with me.
Good morning.
Shane Schillerberg with another fire open. We appreciate that as always. We're live here with you on AM 590, ESPN Omaha, and ESPN Tri-Cities, YouTube, Twitter, all the places. Come hang out with us on a Monday. Big weekend. A lot going on this weekend.
I can't remember anything of relevance happening.
Yeah, I mean, they did kind of blur into each other a little bit there. Obviously you've got the Nebraska football, two wins in a row.
Oh, that happened?
That is a thing that happened. Nebraska volleyball breaks a streak of their own against Wisconsin.
Did that happen too?
It did happen. Same day, in fact.
Really?
Same day.
Within hours?
Hours of each other.
Wild.
It was a big game there.
Where was I?
I don't know. I mean, you were here for part of it. I know that. Because we did a little post-game show together. But although we didn't know we were at the bar at the same time.
No.
For an extended period.
You don't tend to be a booth guy.
No, so I usually sit in the corner booth in the back here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill.
You take the boss's booth.
And that one was occupied by someone else. I think it was somebody that worked for us. I didn't really see it. It didn't matter.
Bill right now is running up here to check the camera. It's like, who was in my spot?
No, yeah, it definitely wasn't Bill. I know who Bill is. But I don't go to the office very often. So there's a lot of people that I like sort of recognize as I think they work for us, but I don't totally know who they are.
The same. It's reciprocated by those at the office for you.
Probably.
Like I think that guy works for us, but he may just be the guy that drops off packages. Like, which one is it?
Yeah, so that's people around here know, like the people that work here know who I am because we're here every day, right? Mm-hmm. But the people that work back at HQ are kind of like, who is that guy? But so yeah, I was in a booth. You were up at the bar, and I didn't realize you were here. I was like, I guess he's just gonna roll up whenever to do the post game show. Not a big deal.
Yeah, sounds like me, right?
Yeah. Well, I was just like, he's probably watching at home. He's gonna come in, right before, because you don't live too far from here,
right?
And so I'm just kind of sitting there, and I'm like, all right, I'm sure he'll text me when he gets here, whatever, blah blah blah. And then the game comes over, or the game's starting to get close to over, and you come sit down at the booth, and you're like, man, what time did you get here? And I was like, I've literally been here the whole game. You're like, I've been sitting at the bar since halftime. Yeah. Had no idea you were there. That's all right, though. We had a good time. Got a little post-game spread in before Nebraska volleyball took on Wisconsin.
Which was huge. A ginormous game.
Yeah.
Ginormous match.
It was huge. And, I had to bust out the double TV setup because I had to get, my prime time
college football
in. Had to get the volleyball game in. So
even if you didn't pull up college football, as long as it was USC, you were probably fine. But if you pulled up Washington at some point, like you were probably just good with just keeping Nebraska.
Yeah,
on the
no,
main
I
TV.
wasn't watching Washington. I was watching USC Utah for a little bit, and then there was another one I was watching. I was trying to remember the other one. There was another 6:30 start that I was watching for a while as well. But Utah USC was obviously the best game there. But yeah, huge win for Nebraska volleyball. We will, I'm sure, get into that a little bit today as well. But I had a little panic moment this morning, Andrew. A little bit of it was a little scary moment for me.
Hit me with it.
So since I was a kid, I think it's a diabetic thing. I wake up every night in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, just every night. And I've kind of got it down to a science where I don't let my brain totally wake myself up all the way. So I kind of just like bleary-eyed wander into the bathroom. I go to the bathroom and I go back to bed. So it's easier to fall back asleep. No, so so I don't like to turn any of the lights on.
Did you choose the sink?
No, I didn't. I didn't. It's worse than that. So
no.
I don't know if it's worse. It felt worse. So I don't turn any of the lights on because I'm not trying to like wake myself up, not trying to wake the wife up. Certainly not trying to wake the dogs up who will insist on going outside if they're disturbed, right? And this is like 3:45 in the morning. So I'm like, I've only got a couple more hours to sleep.
Nightlight? No nightlight?
So here's the thing. My wife, because, if you're going to the bathroom in the dark, you have an opportunity. You may not be as accurate as you normally would be. And so she bought a little nightlight that actually hangs on the toilet bowl. It's specifically designed so it lights up the toilet bowl so you can see where you're going, right?
That's kind of neat.
It's super cool. Very thoughtful of her. She's
it's like going night swimming.
Yeah, kind of. So so we've had this little nightlight for a couple of weeks now, and it's very helpful. Helps with the accuracy
when the lights are on, right?
Immensely. Yes, doing it with the lights are on. Appreciate that, Coach White. So I go in there this morning or 3:45, whatever time it was, and I'm going to the bathroom, and all of a sudden it's bright red. And I am like, holy crap, I'm dying. I am freaking out for like 15, 20 seconds. And then it's bright blue.
It's the color changing light.
And then it's green. And I had no idea. We've had this thing for weeks. I had no idea that it changed colors. Like it had never, I don't know why. I don't know if I had just like been in and out so quick going to the bathroom, or if I just hadn't noticed, or if it had not gotten to red in the cycle when I was going to the bathroom before. But I went from like
minor panic attack.
Oh, not a minor panic attack. I went from like mostly asleep still to
fully
wide awake, like heart racing immediately.
Oh man, I mean,
turns out I'm fine. It was just the light in the toilet.
I feel like the question that needs to be asked is why have a color changing light? Why not just have one color?
I don't know.
Why isn't this color, like, say you want to have something that's easy on the eyes.
Yeah, like
the reason you have this.
Yeah, like a light blue or something.
Right.
Yeah.
The reason you have this is because you're
trying not to wake yourself
in the
up
middle of the night.
Yeah.
So why even run the risk of having one of these things that change colors?
I have no idea.
The manufacturer is who I'm questioning right
now.
Not your wife for the purchase.
Yeah, absolutely. I had no idea.
Unless you purchased it.
I know. I didn't
question you.
I didn't purchase it. She bought it. She's like, hey, this might help, whatever. I was like, cool. Appreciate that. I don't know. I don't know why red would be an option, even if it does change color. I don't understand the necessity of a color changing toilet light. I don't know, because it looks, the way it looks in the bowl kind of looks like those undercarriage lights of a car. Kind of like that glow. And so
I played Need for Speed once or twice.
I was gonna say, you've seen Fast and Furious. Big Tokyo Drift guy.
Oh yeah.
Yes, sir. So,
but yeah, I don't understand why.
I almost had you.
I don't know. You owe me a 10-second car. I don't know why you would need the lights to change color on your toilet light. I don't know why that's necessary.
I think it's cool though.
No, it's a cool idea for sure.
That's totally an Amazon find.
Yeah, I'm sure it was.
Totally.
I'm sure it was.
Because I told you I was going to go through some old VHS footage on Saturday. And I found out that I didn't have the right converter to go from VHS to digital.
Yeah.
So I have to go on Amazon. And I got to tell you, man, the thing that I purchased on Amazon has a title that is longer than like a Magic Treehouse book that you read at school.
Okay.
Like this title was from the top of the page on down. I'm like, who reads? The title was the description. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, they do that so it's like a search engine optimization thing, right?
Right.
But it makes it have ridiculous titles.
But all I wanted to know is, does this work on Mac?
Yeah.
And I had to scroll through the title just to see the word Mac.
Yeah.
That's all I needed.
I'm curious what she Googled to find a toilet nightlight.
I bet I could type toilet nightlight in right now to Amazon and tons of options.
Let's see if it pops up.
So spend time, work less. That's what Amazon's slogan is. No, I'm just kidding. Toilet. Yeah. Let me read you the options.
Oh,
here.
gosh.
Toilet nightlight, motion activated.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's the motion activated one.
Sensor.
It's a motion activated one because it doesn't turn on until I get in there.
Are you sure it's not motion detector?
I don't know. I know it doesn't turn on until I get in there.
Toilet nightlight, motion sensor, LED, 8 colors.
That's probably the one.
Okay.
I just did
this right here.
Yeah, that looks like it, except for not bright.
It looks like it's a wannabe bidet, like hanging off the side.
Yeah, it is. It hangs off the side like that. It's like a little clip deal.
Mm-hmm.
I never would have thought like, hey, I bet somebody's made a device that lights my toilet up. It never would have occurred to me.
See, you think of something. If you have an idea and you're like, man, like I could be a millionaire if I go through with this idea.
It definitely already exists.
All you have to do is go on Amazon to see if it exists.
Yeah, it definitely
that's
already
the only
exists.
thing. That's all you have to do. Now, if you're revamping a current idea,
sure,
that's one thing.
Yeah.
But if you're like, dude, like think about the 7-string guitar or the piano on the wall over here that doesn't even match up accordingly to what a piano sounds or looks like. Maybe I could type that in online and Amazon won't have it.
Yeah.
I have a bone to pick with whoever made that sound.
Yeah, I know. You're a little stuck. Yeah.
There's a 7-string guitar on the wall.
You know, have you ever seen a 12-string guitar? They're crazy. They're like double guitars. It's nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was my little not really near-death experience, but I thought near-death experience this morning. So yeah, I've been off to an interesting start, but we're here. We're happy to be here.
Were you able to go back to sleep? Because in a moment like that, I would probably have to like lay in bed, calm myself down a little bit more, and then be able to fall back asleep. But my brain would be low-key awake.
Yeah, it took like an hour to fall back asleep. Also, if I'm not really fast going from bed to bathroom back to bed, one of my dogs always climbs on my pillows every single time. Doug, I love him to death. I love him to death, but he's like, because I think he does that when I leave in the morning because I leave before my wife. So I think sometimes he thinks, oh, Dad's gone for the day.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get on the comfy pillows. And it's because I don't know, I have this elaborate pillow setup because I need it. But so he climbs up
because
on
I'm a king.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little bougie. I like to sleep like with a little elevated. So I got a little wedge pillow in there. And then I like to sleep on my side.
Okay.
So my wife got me, again, terrific purchase. She got me this wedge pillow that has a hole in the top where you can like slide your arm in so you're not squishing your shoulder all the time. It's actually super comfortable. I love it.
Does it have a red nightlight?
It does not have a red nightlight. So I don't think I'm like bleeding out while I'm
that's okay. Then we're good.
No, but seriously, it was one of those. Have you seen The Godfather?
Yeah.
Okay. So it was like a horse in the bed moment. Like I went from mostly asleep to like, immediately until the light changed color. So it was like 10, 15 seconds. Mm-hmm. It felt like an eternity though. But yeah, so
that doesn't shock me one bit. So whenever I'm in panic mode, it does feel like it's an hour.
Yeah, the shortest amount of time feels so long. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so I get back to bed. Doug's all curled up on my pillows. I'm like, come on, man. Like I just had this minor panic attack here. Like get off my pillow. He wasn't moving, so I had to like squeeze my way in.
I feel like
when
you go to sleep, you're like the kid in A Christmas Story whose mom wraps him up in a ton of coats before he walks outside. Like that's how you sleep with pillows.
With pillows, yeah, it's a cocoon of pillows around my top half, and then I usually don't really use a ton of blankets
to get
unless
to the bathroom,
I'm cold.
It's probably 5 minutes for you to undress the pillows off of you.
Well, they're like around me. They're not on me. It's not like a weighted blanket situation. Hey, I tried one of those once. It was not for me. You don't have to explain
it to me.
It was not for me.
I only use one pillow.
Oh, gosh. How do you live?
I use one pillow, and I lay on my stomach.
Oh, gosh. Really?
But dude, if I lay on my back, I snore.
Yeah, so that's why I'm a side sleeper.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I flip to my back, and my wife like punches me. She's like, "Roll over." I'm like, all right, gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay.
But I'm a kicker.
You're a kid.
Yeah, I told you I love kickers. I'm literally a kicker. So I don't know. Even since I was a kid, somebody probably thought I was possessed. Growing up, I used to rock on my knees, like it would help me go to bed.
Okay.
A little exorcist style. And now there are times where I get so uncomfortable, like my body is uncomfortable, that in the middle of the night, at like a really good rhythm, like it's like to the beat of a bass drum.
Yeah.
My leg is just going. Swear. I don't know if it's restless leg syndrome or what, but I can kick in the middle of the night. And I also think that's because I'm on my stomach.
Yeah.
But if I lay on my back, like I was telling you,
you snore.
I saw wood.
Yeah.
So it's like, what would you rather have?
Yeah.
This or that?
Yeah. No, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, I think I'd prefer to sleep on my back, but yeah, I can't do it otherwise. I'm snoring the whole night. So I got the fancy side sleeper pillar with my elbow. It's nice. Yeah, by the way, a lot happened in sports this weekend.
Yeah, I kind of want to, sit on
where
the Nebraska volleyball.
Yeah, where do you want to
start?
start? Let's start there.
So the reason for that is biggest match of the year, no doubt.
I mean, certainly until they go up to Madison, right? Yeah.
But, John Cook said before the match, he said after the match, it's just another match.
Yeah.
It's match 10, right? But this was huge for his legacy. So the reason I say that is this. It snaps the 10-match losing streak to Wisconsin, yes.
Mm-hmm.
But, for the longest time, it was Wisconsin this, Wisconsin that, but getting over that hump felt nearly impossible. Like, at least for the past, 4 or 5 years, it felt like, oh, my gosh, every time Nebraska faces Wisconsin, it's either 3-0 or 3-1. But at least majority of the time, from the time I remember it, it's 3-0 every time that they face off against Wisconsin. But here are some things I heard coming into the season that make me say that this was huge for his legacy. Does Cook still have it to recruit with the best of them? Why aren't we splitting ever with Wisconsin? I'm not saying, he was on the verge of being fired because he constantly came in second to Wisconsin, but it's something to take note of. Did he lose a step? Like, these are things that I heard from outsiders.
Yeah.
And it's funny to think about because this is a coach that just constantly wins. But at some point, you really have to put that coach in a different category of coaches.
Yeah.
And where you say, yes, even though he wins all the time, well, you have to win national titles now to take that next step, right? You can't just be 33-0 in the regular season and then lose in a regional final or be the runner-up one year. That's the separation, right? So that's kind of what I'm thinking about. Because sometimes even those that win like that, you have to hold to a higher standard.
Sure.
So maybe I'm over-exaggerating this point, but I really do believe that this was a huge win for his legacy because some could be thinking, man, is he tailing off a little bit? Like, why can't he get back up the hill? It felt like a plateau after the previous national championship, even though they were a runner-up 1 year after or 2 years after that, right?
Yeah.
But still, it's things to think about with a guy in the position John Cook's in.
Yeah, so I think saying it mattered for his legacy is a bit of an overstatement because of, you're talking 4 national titles. He's had 2 runners-up since then. He was in 21, they were the national runner-up. 18, they were the national runner-up. I don't think it mattered for his legacy. I think it mattered for this team. I think it was a really big win for this year's team. I just don't know that there's a regular season game left out there that can impact his legacy at all. That's just from my point of view, right? But I do think it was still a huge win for this team this year because nobody on this roster, I think one player on this roster who beat Wisconsin at a different school before she transferred here had ever beaten Wisconsin, right? So for this team, it was enormous. For this team's legacy, sure. For John Cook's legacy, I don't know that I quite buy that. But for what this team wants to accomplish, to win a national title, to climb back to the top of that mountain. Like, I know it's 2017 isn't that long ago, but for the way Nebraska volleyball has kind of established itself, like you said, 2018 national runner-up, 2021 national runner-up, to get back to the top of that mountain. 2017 starting to feel like a long time ago, right? Haven't been to a Final Four, haven't been to
they haven't been outside of regionals.
Yeah, so except they've had the two runners-up appearances, right? So for this specific team to beat Wisconsin is a huge step on that hill, because not just because Wisconsin's had their number, but because Wisconsin has sort of supplanted them at the top of the sport.
But that's why I go back to a legacy claim with John Cook, because not only does that, so because his teams are falling off, the fact that he was able to take that step again and get back up there, it puts him in the category of greatest of all time.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, I think them falling off is an overstatement. Like, they took a step, because I mean, if you look at the time between the national
so when I say falling off, though, I look at it as if like Penn State is baby brother to Michigan and Ohio State in football.
Sure.
Like James Franklin right now,
yeah,
until he takes that next step, will never be considered a greatest coach of all time. Now, John Cook's in a different world than that because he was already there, but that's kind of how I was looking at this from the perspective of, you're up there, you're always competing, you're always going to be there, but why aren't you?
If you want to
in
say
the college football
they've
playoff?
fallen off in the sense that like Ohio State has fallen off the last couple of years from the pace of Michigan, that I can kind of understand, right? Because Ohio State had dominated Michigan the last couple of years. Michigan has really flipped the table on that. So in that sense, they'd fallen back a little bit from Wisconsin, right? So I understand that. I still think this was much more about this year and this team's legacy than it was John Cook's legacy, right? Because I think his legacy is established and pretty safe. The thing that I liked the most about this, though, is for a guy that has won 4 national titles, been to a bunch of Final Fours, been national runner-up several times, to see the way he celebrated after a regular season win, like, I know some people probably looked at that and said, hey, like, it's a regular season, don't make too much of it. I love the way he still cares enough about his players and cares enough about the moment to celebrate that way after a regular season win. Is it a win over top number 1 team in the country? Sure. Is it a win that kind of breaks a long losing streak against that team? Sure. But at the end of the,
like he was about to tear up.
He was so in the moment, and I loved that, because I mean, you would never see Nick Saban celebrate like that after a regular season win. He barely celebrates like that after a national title. That man's just on to the next one, right?
Right.
And that's a personality thing. I'm not hating on Nick Saban, right? But I really appreciate the fact that he can enjoy a regular season win this much, no matter how big the regular season win is.
It just shows how much he cares. It's how much he cares about not only the matchup, but his team.
But his team and what he's doing
moment.
Still, right? Like, when you've been doing this for as long as he did, it's really easy to kind of be like, it's just the regular season. We got to get to the playoff or to the postseason. Doesn't really mean anything yet.
Just maybe, he thought about, gosh, my recruiting has always come in second place to Wisconsin. Not anymore.
Maybe, yeah.
And maybe he's like, yeah, the Queens are back on top of the world.
I guess so. I do want to ask, when you came back, better celebration, Matt Rhule crowd surfing or Cowboy Cook? We'll get to that and a bunch more. We'll set up the show coming up next on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. 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 You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Just match 10 in the Big Ten. Welcome to the Big Ten. No, I wasn't listening. I've been all over the place. Just match 10. Just another match in the Big Ten. But you saw a team that really, really fought through a lot of challenges tonight. Things weren't going our way. Wisconsin was playing really well. We were really struggling in games 2 and 3. And that team did not quit, and they kept believing. And we kept telling them, you know, it's going to come down to 2 points at the end in game 4 and 2 points in game 5. And thank goodness they give you an extra green card in game 5. So I did my job and got the final point.
Welcome back to Hurrdat Sports Radio. I'm Ravi Lulla. Andrew Rogers here with me as well. We are getting you going on a Monday morning here on AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live from the Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. Real quick before we jump back into things here, the lineup for today's show coming up at 8 o'clock. We'll talk to Sam McKewon of the Omaha World-Herald. We will talk to Nick Athan of ChiefsBlitz.com, get a little Kansas City football update. And then we will talk to Matt Hladik of thespun.com. He covers college football and big national weekend of college football. Lots to get to. So
yeah, a lot of good football.
I'm glad we are talking to Matt today as well. Hopping right back into kind of the weekend for Nebraska, obviously back-to-back football, volleyball, kind of an ideal. I mean, I know some people didn't love the timing of it, but if you're just trying to experience the entire sort of Nebraska athletic department at its finest, Saturday was sort of an example of that. Was it the prettiest football game of all time? No, but it was a W. I really liked one of the things that Coach Rhule said after the game, where he just talked about, hey, earlier in the year we wouldn't have won this game.
I wrote down that same quote.
I love that he just is willing to admit that, right? Because let's be honest, the Minnesota game essentially was this game. There was not.
I think Minnesota's a better team than Northwestern, even though Northwestern beat Minnesota. Yeah, I still think Minnesota's the better team.
I do too. I don't think there's a ton of difference.
So that's why I didn't really agree with the quote when he said it, because I'm like, you play Northwestern to open the year. I bet you still sneak out a win.
If you turn the ball over, I mean, if you've got those 2 early picks like they did, if you've got the 3 fumbles like they did, even though they didn't lose any of them, I don't know. I really don't know if you win this game at the start of the year. Because I really don't see a ton of difference. I agree with you. Minnesota's a little bit better. I don't think there's a ton of difference between Northwestern and Minnesota.
Well, I guess I look at it more from the stance of everything that transpired before the year for Northwestern would be hanging over their head going into game 1.
Sure.
So that's why I was kind of like, if it was any other team,
sure,
I could probably agree with that quote 100%, but I was kind of like, a little 50-50 on it. Like, I bet Nebraska still could have come out with a W if it was Northwestern to open the year. But we all know how it ended up happening with Minnesota, so I'm not trying to say, like, oh my gosh, Nebraska didn't have its problems either.
Yeah, I don't know that it was. So I understand what you're saying about Northwestern. I think it was less about the opponent and more about, hey, if
the team,
when we played, played this way earlier in the year, we lost,
and maybe that's what,
right. I think it was
maybe I'm paying too close of attention to the opposing team.
I think it was more about like, hey, when we made mistakes like
problem.
This earlier in the year, we couldn't overcome them. When we made mistakes like this against Minnesota or against Colorado, we couldn't overcome them. Now, they didn't play a particularly clean or impressive football game against Northwestern, but they were able to keep going. They were able to overcome every single obstacle. I mean, we talked about it last week, right? About, hey, let's just go 1-0 every snap. There were times within snaps, those 2 long plays. I think there was a long run and there was the long pass, right, for Northwestern, where they had to not just throw that play away and say, hey, we got to go 1-0 the next time. They had to throw something that happened earlier on the play away and come back within the same play, chase the guy down to go 1-0 in that same play still, right? And that's the thing that I don't think was there earlier in the year. Just that mentality of, hey, failure does not define us. When we make a mistake, we can come back and go 1-0 on that next play. I was really impressed by their ability. And listen, I know I'm going to say things like that, and people are going to think to themselves like, Ravi, look at the offensive output, look at the outproduction, look how the game looked. Yes, it's an ugly football game. They're all going to be ugly football games. Okay, just from here on out, it's all going to be ugly football. I don't think there's a 40 or 50 burger in this team. I don't think it exists. If it was going to happen, it was going to happen against Northwestern. It's not out there, folks.
Well, and that was the worry we had on. It was either Thursday or Friday when I brought up, will they play down to their opponent? And I think there was a little bit of playing down to your opponent.
I don't even know if it's playing down to your opponent. This is just who Nebraska is.
But I just think they took it a little easy at first. Like, Harburg's making throws that, he wasn't making in games before that. He was being careful with his plays, and I think he was like, all right, let's try to get after it a little bit this game.
Yeah.
And it just seemed like there were some balls that weren't totally there. And then, you're dropping the football on the turf constantly. There's like these little mental errors that any other team would have taken advantage of against you if they aren't named Northwestern.
Sure.
So when I talk about playing down to an opponent, I'm not just saying like, oh my gosh, Nebraska and Northwestern, they were the same team in that moment. No, I mean, Nebraska was making mistakes that Northwestern would make.
Yeah, I guess I feel like Nebraska's made a lot of those mistakes throughout the year. So I don't know how much of it is a playing down to an opponent, and like maybe that's just part of who Nebraska is this year.
All those picks though, for like not from Harburg, maybe from
Not
Sims.
from Harburg, but
the fumble issues that we saw with one player, I would not try to attach to the whole team though. And it seemed like the team was putting the ball on the ground.
they were, but there has, I mean, you've had the fumble issues with the running backs this year. You've had multiple where Harburg just falls on it. So we kind of forget about some of those in past games because he hasn't lost the turnovers. And with the interceptions, it almost felt like this was due a little bit because he threw probably 3 interceptable balls against Illinois that they just didn't catch. And they caught him this time, right? Like it's not like he's been playing perfect. He just hasn't gotten bit for it yet. And
I still think this was a great game for growth though.
oh,
And if there
absolutely.
was any team
Absolutely.
for that to happen against,
Yes.
it's Northwestern
Because it's a team you
still get a
can
win.
overcome, right? Let's get to the Warhorse Sportsbook hotline. Out of breath, Brian wants to talk about Matt Rhule's comments. Brian, what's going on, man?
Oh, nothing, fellas. Just have a couple of comments on this weekend.
Yeah, what do you got?
B?
Well, besides that volleyball match being extraordinary.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna say Harper Murray and what's her name? Beeson.
Yeah, Merritt Beeson.
And for them, man, they look like I was like, man, they must be Scottie Pippen and Michael Jordan right now. The way they tag teaming over Wisconsin.
Yeah, Harper Murray doesn't play like a freshman.
No, she was, man, the stuff she was doing. I mean, I really don't. I've always wondered why volleyball isn't more popular because it has a lot of stuff that people like in it, like with basketball, a lot of jumping, athleticism. I'm like, I always thought it would be a little bit more popular.
Yeah, a lot of excitement after every single play, every single point.
You know, I used to love watching it in the Olympics when during the '80s. You know, the Russians used to always give USA fits. You know, so I like volleyball, but as far as the football, y'all talking about things y'all like that Matt Rhule said at the end of the game. What I like more of what he said was you have to be patient with these kids, with these students out here because they're going to make mistakes. And to me, that shows a lot. That means he's going to go into work every day. He's willing. He's going to be patient enough to deal with this team, coach this team through their mistakes. He's not going to give up. He's not going to sit at home and, I don't know, tip up a shot of tequila or nothing like that, like some people, but he's going to actually be there to work at his job. So I see a lot out of that statement. I read a lot from that statement. That's a good coach. That's something to say because a lot of people here need to take that advice as well and calm down a little bit. They're going to make mistakes. You've been seeing it for the last how many years out there. You know they're going to make it. They got to play their way through it. So go ahead and deal with it. I like that. I think he's made to be a coach here. And I'm just going to sit back and watch his time here. Hey, go Huskers.
B, appreciate the call. I couldn't agree more with the point of I find a lot of importance in having the athlete figure it out himself. And I was saying that a little bit during post game on Hurrdat Sports following the game on Saturday was with Harburg. I think he needed those progressive plays, the ones that, you know, set him back and how he overcame them. Like those moments are huge for the athlete, for him, especially because he hasn't gotten those reps in the game before where things have gone bad and he was able to overcome it. He's had to watch a lot of bad, but for him and for just all athletes out there, there's tons of value in making them overcome those mistakes because it makes you work harder to do it.
Yeah. Coming up next, we will wrap up hour number 1, and then we'll talk to Sam McKewon at the top of the 8 o'clock hour here on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
But I do want to tell you, and I want the people in Nebraska to know that I don't do anything theatrical during games. I don't point to the crowd. I don't point to my family. But I did point up to Coach Osborne's box because Coach Osborne came in and said, if you guys are going to keep running the belly G option, you have to run the belly G pass. And Ron's been telling us that, and we've been running it. But we got that turnover, and we said, let's run it. And Malachi, that's the route. That's the route that you run for the love of the game to get everyone else open. And Malachi ran by everybody, ran the belly G option pass, hit it for a touchdown. And so I thought we played like a team. The loss of Billy was devastating tonight. Most of that game plan was built around him. Jaden came in, and we tried to, function the base things. But I was proud of the offensive staff for just continuing to try to find things, but we left a lot out there. So that's a lot that I said. I apologize, but obviously I have some thoughts after that game. But I'll just say this, I think we would have lost that game at the beginning of the year. And after all the adversity we've gone through and the toughness we're building, that's a game that we now win.
Wrapping up hour number one here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. I'm Ravi Lulla, Andrew Rogers here with me, and we are trying to get your week started off right on AM 590, ESPN Omaha, and ESPN Tri-Cities. It's kind of interesting to think about the way this offense sort of continues to evolve, because obviously this is not what anyone planned on to start the season.
You didn't plan for this? You didn't plan on Heinrich Harburg being the starter?
Not just that, but
you didn't plan on all these injuries?
They're out there just being like, hey, Coach Osborne, can you teach us how to run the option, please? Because that's all we have left. Coach Brown, can you teach us how to run the option, please? That's all we have left. And they're like, oh, yeah, by the way, if you're going to run the option, you kind of need to run the option pass too.
You also need a quarterback that can pitch it.
That's it. So there was a play during, I think I tweeted this. There was a play during the game. It was
when he got smoked.
No, it was the one that he actually got a good run on. He had about 20-yard run.
Okay.
Because I think it was right before the first touchdown.
Well, yeah, it's because Northwestern defended the pitch.
Yes, and I thought it was hilarious that they bit on the pitch man and let Harburg run. I was like, guys.
It's kind of like playing goalie in soccer on a PK. Like, you know this guy never shoots the ball to the right side. He always goes left.
Yeah.
But I'm going to defend the right side for this one-off chance that he's actually going to go to the right side. And then he just always goes left.
Yeah. Yeah, it was hilarious. I saw it happen in real time. I was like, you idiots.
But then the other time when he was on his near sideline, easily could have pitched it. But
smoked.
Instead, it was almost as if Harburg was like, I don't trust myself.
Yeah, I really think it's a comfort thing. He's not comfortable doing it. Right?
I don't feel like I can control my own destiny when I have the football in my hands. But when I try to toss it, I don't want to be the guy that tosses it behind or in front, causes a fumble. So I'd rather take the big hit and then go after it on third down.
Live to play another down,
right?
Yeah. And to be fair, I do appreciate that about him. He's not kind of just chucking it out there willy-nilly on that option. It is something that he's going to have to figure out how to do if they're going to continue to run it. But I also listen, I make fun of it as much as anyone because it's kind of funny, right? That he just cannot pitch the ball.
Mm-hmm.
I also don't want to underestimate how difficult of a skill that is to learn. Because these guys that had been doing it for Nebraska back in the day spent their entire lives doing this, right? Like, this is not a super easy skill to just pick up on the fly. There's a handful of guys that have a natural inclination to it, but everybody else, I mean, like Eric Crouch had been running that offense since he was born. Like, out of the womb, he was practicing that pitch. Like, went to Miller North, obviously. Like that, all of those guys had been doing that their entire lives. Heinrich Harburg was in a passing offense in high school, like an air it out, like spread, air raid type offense in high school. He did not pitch the ball. He didn't even run the ball that much.
Yeah, sometimes I wonder when I watch his game, he's playing a little too high school-ish out there on the field.
How so?
In regards to, I can do everything myself. I can when you watch good dual threat quarterbacks, what tends to happen? They're the ones that are making the plays, right?
Sure.
They're the ones that take off and run. They're the ones that air the ball out, things like that. From a comfort point of view, I think he plays like a high school quarterback, to where I'm going to do everything myself, and that's just how it's going to run right now. I'm going to make sure that if we're going to score a touchdown and there's a 50-yard pass, I'm the one throwing it.
Sure.
I'm going to make sure if we're running the ball, like, it's going to be me running the football.
Yeah, I just wonder how much of that. I mean, I think,
and maybe it's a lack of maturity thing too, which makes me think a little high school like.
Well, I just wonder how. I mean, there's not a ton of options left on the offense. It's part of the problem, right?
And that could be it too.
I mean, in terms of, you're kind of at the bottom of the barrel in terms of running backs. And I'm not saying these guys aren't talented, right? Because, I think Emmett Johnson has showed some flashes of being good. Obviously, we've seen flashes of Anthony Grant where he can look good, but then he, obviously has lost the football quite a bit, and he's back down to third string again because of those issues. So it's not a guy you can rely on, it seems like, or it doesn't feel like the coaching staff feels like that. They're down their top 4 wide receivers at this point. I just don't know how much choice he has. Like, that's why they're running still, the option, because they don't have a skill
set of his.
Yeah.
That it screams like I'm watching high school football sometimes, where it's just him against the world, right? You got to have confidence in your other guys, despite who they are.
Yeah.
Whether they're the third string guy or whether they're the starting running back to open the year, you always have to have confidence that person can make the big play too. And I just don't know if he has that yet. I don't know if he thinks anybody can make a bigger play than he can. So that's why he holds on to the football and thinks, well, if I break this tackle, it's going to be me.
Yeah.
It's going to be the guy. I'm going to be the one that runs 20 yards. And that works for him. It works for him right now.
Yeah.
But I just worry that it's going to catch up to him because people are going to figure him out quickly.
Yeah. I just wonder, because like sometimes the reason it's that way in high school is because a lot of times when you have a Division I caliber quarterback, it is the truth, right? It is the best option. You know, you see it in basketball all the time where, okay, maybe this guy is double teamed. It's like, yeah, he's still the best option. Like I would rather that guy shoot double teamed than have one of your scrubs or engineering majors or whoever shoot it, open. I just wonder, because there's a tipping point with all the injuries, right? Where at some point him keeping it and him trying to do it all is the best option. And I think we've seen that some with the QB run game. I think we've seen that some where they've gone to the option, is because at a certain point for this offense, him keeping the ball, him trying to do it all is the best chance they have to actually move the football, because there's just not a ton left. Now, hopefully that shifts as the young receivers get a little bit more mature and seasoning, right? Hopefully it shifts as like Emmett Johnson starts to emerge a little bit. But right now, I mean, Harburg might be right. Like that's the tough thing about it, is he might not be wrong if that's what he's thinking. And it might be what the coaching staff is thinking a little bit too. It's really hard when you've got a bunch of inexperienced guys out there who none of them really have proven playmaking experience, right? I mean, Billy Kemp was kind of the last one, and we don't know how long he's going to be out, right? Hopefully we learn a little bit more today. Want to hop in the YouTube comments real quick. I don't know which one you were looking at, but
I was going to start with TK's because he sent me a message personally and he put something there. So if you read TK's first.
Yeah. Which of TK's first one here?
The option, he should have pitched it.
Oh yeah. Hold on. All right. Let me
down to the bottom.
One. The option he should have pitched was dead from the start. Outside blocking broke down. And if you pitch that, the RB gets smoked and probably drops the ball. Sometimes you just have to eat it. That's totally fair. That's a totally fair point as well. It did seem like there may have been a little bit of light on the outside for the running back.
It was close to the sideline.
Yeah.
What I look at mostly with that is, okay, maybe he should have pitched it. It's the wrong term. You shouldn't take the big shot. Like if you're going to be in that moment, I look at this as a way to preserve the body.
Sure.
And just hit the deck before you get decked.
So for me on that one, the reason I thought he should have pitched it was, and we don't have to get like into the real granular detail of it, but typically on an option, it is when you've got when the quarterback is about to take a hit, that means the defense has made their decision on who they're picking up, right? So that's the read is, hey, I'm about to take this hit. That means my running back should have a lane. Now, if the blocking didn't take care of that, that's not on the quarterback. He still needs to make the right decision as far as when to pitch the ball and when to not. When he's about to take the hit, that's the right time to pitch the ball. If the blocking didn't take care of it so the running back can run, that's not on him. He still needs to make the right decision. So that's
easier said than done, though.
100%.
I can sit here and say he should have just hit the ground, but in that moment when you're thinking, do I pitch it, do I run it? And then all of a sudden you get hit because it's a split-second decision.
And he's broken enough tackles, right, that it's, he probably, like you said, he probably thinks like, oh, I can break this tackle and take it to the house. The one I wanted to get to was Travis goes, God, I will miss the Big West. Every week is this beautiful, ugly rock fight. Not wrong. And then Maurice chimes in, is the 2024 starting QB on the roster right now? Does Sims save his redshirt and transfer out? Well, Sims would have to graduate, and I don't know if he's going to I don't know what his academic standing is, but in order for Sims to transfer out and play immediately, he'd have to graduate. So I'm not sure if that's an option for him. I don't know if the 2024 quarterback's on the roster right now. I do expect him to bring in other quarterbacks from the transfer portal 100%. But I don't know that they're going to hand anybody the job. I think that's maybe something they learned from this year, unless they have someone who
Well, the only thing I can think of is this. If Harburg leads this team to, we'll call it 8-4, he's the starting quarterback next year as of right now.
Sure. Yeah.
Even if you bring somebody in to compete with him, I would still have confidence in saying he's going to be the guy because he knows the offense that this team wants to run, unless this is not the look.
Well, so I don't think
want to run.
That's the thing is I don't think this is the offense they want to run. He knows the offense they're running right now, and maybe they would keep that offense if it leads to success. But I do think they bring in a 2024 transfer quarterback. I don't think they guarantee anybody the starting job. Not that they guaranteed Sims the starting job, but it seems like he was kind of their chosen one. I don't know that they'll make that mistake again. Coming up next, we're going to talk to Sam McKewon. Obviously, a ton going on in Nebraska athletics, volleyball, football, all the good stuff this weekend. we will get to Sam coming up next here on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back.
Johnson, it's hard. Center leaks it.
I just want to make sure I said, I don't think it's trying times. I think Coach Vaughn is doing a phenomenal.
We will be back.
Battle, fought, and a lot of young players came through. I thought our guys battled. Just really proud. I just want to make sure I say.
Now, Sam McKewon.
I thought our guys battled, fought, and a lot of young players came through that, just really proud. Boy down to the end.
We will be back.
Boy down to the end.
Sam McKewon.
I thought our guys battled, fought, and a lot of young.
Sam McKewon.
I thought our guys battled.
Here is. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio. Here is the sports editor for the Omaha World-Herald, Sam McKewon.
That's fine. That's fine. That's fine.
Sam McKewon.
We're gonna throw the ball, and you just stand back there and throw it where you want to go. And that kind of thing.
Sam McKewon.
Are you guys going? Sure.
Now, Sam McKewon.
I thought our guys battled, fought, and a lot of young players came through that, just really, really proud of. I just want to make sure I say, I went to Baylor in the midst of trying times before the transfer portal. I think the man, Coach Braun, is doing a phenomenal job. And that team fights and they compete. And we knew it would go all the way down to the end.
Kicking off hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. I'm Ravi Lulla. Andrew Rogers here with me, and joining us now on the Warhorse Sportsbook phone line is our friend from the Omaha World-Herald, Sam McKewon. Sam, how are you this morning?
Good, gentlemen. How are you?
We are doing pretty good here on a Monday. Obviously, a busy weekend for Nebraska athletics. Let's start with football here. An interesting comment Coach Rhule made after the game, and I'm curious your thoughts on it, is that he said he didn't think they would win. They would have won this game earlier in the season. Just how did you process that comment?
I think he's trying to communicate to his team that he believes they've grown, and that if these same errors had happened in Minneapolis, they wouldn't have won the game, just like they didn't win the game up there last time when they played Minnesota. But I think that's most of what it is. I think he gets in motivation mode and is sort of signaling to us what he told the team. I'll tell you this: they do that again next week, they won't win.
Mm-hmm.
So they played the worst team in the Big Ten West, and probably the worst team in the Big Ten. I don't know what Indiana, will or won't do. So they can't do that against Purdue and hand the ball to Northwestern on the 44 and the 47 and the 13 and expect to beat Purdue doing the same thing. So, they got to get better. I think he is going to savor every single win they get. I think that's a good approach because this team, if it plays up to its capability on offense, has a chance to win every game on the way out because the defense is playing really that well.
Sam, I guess, do you think this team's grown since the start of the year? They're still making seemingly a lot of the same mistakes, but they are overcoming them. How much of that is opponent based, and how much of that do you think they've actually grown?
Well, I think they've made some strides in certain areas. I think they're figuring out most of what they want to do in special teams. Brian Buschini had a huge play in the game. I think that, defensively, they were a good defense in the first game, but they're doing a nice job of handling sudden change. That's probably the healthiest that Nebraska's defensive line has been since so early in the Colorado game. So I think that showed. I think they were good there. And, again, he's going to say what he's going to say, and I appreciate what he's saying. That wasn't my big takeaway from Saturday. Wasn't that it's a one-game season every week now, and whether it reflects trajectory growth or not, that's fine. But they have a chance here to win 6 games, and they have a team coming in next week this week that's got flaws. They got a chance to win that game. I think it'll be tougher. Obviously they're a 3-point favorite against Purdue, and they were 11 against Northwestern. I thought the game against Northwestern would be tougher than their line, and it was. And I think, at this moment in time, given that Purdue had a bye week, I might even lean Purdue at this point. Nebraska's got to clean up its offense. They can't do the things that they did early in that game, and they were lucky not to lose 1 or 2 of those fumbles too.
Sam, at any point in that football game, were you at all concerned Northwestern would find the end zone? Because even on big plays, I think to myself, at best, they're getting a field goal here.
Yeah, no, I mean, I absolutely, I agree. I think, I'm sure they would love to take a few of their play calls back the couple times they got in the red zone. But no, I think Nebraska did a really, really good job of knowing what Northwestern might try to do, and B, just playing with a lot of aggression once Northwestern got in the scoring zone. That Nebraska did not play safe. They tried to break Northwestern instead of being the bend don't break scheme, and I think it showed. I think Nebraska played well once they got down there. Again, Northwestern, like a lot of teams, they try to hit some of these wide plays and it doesn't really work. Nebraska's been good against those for many years now. Northwestern did hit one. That toss play was really smart. That was a neat play. And then they got the 40-yarder on the very next one when they fit it, and Omar Brown was going to go take an outside gap, and that running back cut it back in. So that happens sometimes. I think teams that watch Nebraska closely should watch the way that, Northwestern hit a few runs. I think Northwestern has a pretty good idea. And they were close. They're just not a good enough team. I don't think that quarterback's quite good enough. And there's just a couple things there. But I like I said, I think Purdue can exploit some of those things. They have better running backs, for one thing. They have two good ones. One of them is a converted receiver. And I think their quarterback's better. And so we'll see what happens on Saturday.
Sam, you mentioned that this offense kind of needs to play up to their potential. I guess what, in your mind, considering the state of who's available still, I guess what is their ceiling on offense this year?
Well, when the offensive coordinator designs a nice play and calls it, and you got that bootleg out, it's the play. And it's not, they did it later in the game. When Harburg hit Coleman for the touchdown, you just make the plays that are available to make. And Harburg made a good throw, and Coleman caught the ball in the sun. That wasn't actually an easy play for him to make, but he did. But earlier in the game, you got the ball 1st and 10 at your own 36, and it's pretty common for an OC to call a play that's about a chunk play that gets you to the edge of field goal territory, somewhere in there, and he called it, and that was a 25-yard gain. If they just hit the pass, and they didn't, and so those are frustrating moments when you call the right play and you got the right thing on, and quarterback's got to make the throw, so things like that. I thought they pushed the pile at times okay against Northwestern. I thought their offensive line played all right. I don't think they gave up a sack. Northwestern wasn't trying to come after them, but the Wildcats played coverage, I think, with the intention of picking off a couple. They got them. They got their 2 picks early. And again, a better team, has a 10-0 lead there or a 14-0 lead. And Northwestern had a 3-0 lead. And that was probably, the key to the game is that Northwestern wasn't able to get out of the gate and get a big lead early. So I think that's credit to Northwestern's game plan. I thought they did a really nice job. They coached it well. And then, Nebraska, was able to make enough plays of its own, and you credit Nebraska for that first half drive, and then knowing, and again, Satterfield gets a lot of heat, and I get it, and I understand it, but he knows what he's doing. He just doesn't have a lot of parts to work with, and I thought they did a nice job on that deep throw to Coleman.
Sam, before I ask this, I'm not saying get Harburg out of there completely in a game where he's struggling, but I did see a lot of fans clamoring for a Jeff Sims return when things weren't going so right for the quarterback. Do you like the approach the staff took in having the player figure out and work through his issues on his own, or at some point in that game, would you have liked to see Jeff Sims possibly replace Harburg and have Heinrich mentally regroup on the bench as another way of saying, hey, poor play can lead to this?
Maybe, I think that that was a tough situation, obviously, for Harburg, and he's got to continue to work through those things. I think going forward, the aim is to roll with Harburg unless he gets hurt. We're now in this weird space where Sims has only played 3 games. He's only appeared in 3 games. And in theory, he can redshirt and then graduate and then decide what he wants to do from there. And I don't know what effect that has on the situation. I just, it's hard to say, where exactly things are going. I think ideally they would love to roll, ride Harburg and have him get incrementally better and win 6 games, and then you get to, if Sims has only played in 3, then you get to use him in a bowl game and send him off in a way that makes everybody happy, kind of thing. So there's always that possibility, there's always that option lying out there. it's just hard to tell. This is what's really hard about coaching today, guys. You're trying to manage so many different things that have so little framework or structure around it. And this is a really good example of, it's just a hard job. I know they make a lot of money, but it's hard to try to figure out everything that you're trying to do. This is just me talking. I get rid of the 4-game thing. I don't think that's been all that helpful. Mostly it's just cluttered up, rosters but they're not going to get rid of it because everybody thinks it's, coaches in their mind, I think it's great because it's like, oh, I could use this guy for a couple of plays here and train him up here and do this here. What it really tends to do is create, a late transfer after the person's graduated because they didn't use this year or they didn't use this year. So, and the COVID year makes it hard too. All these players got a COVID year. If you started in 2020, that's a COVID year. That didn't count. And then you took a redshirt year in 2021, you're a redshirt freshman in your third year on campus. And that's not going to change until after the 2025 season. So like a Jamari Butler could play through 2025, I think, at Nebraska. So there's just a lot of moving parts for these coaches. I'm stupid and sort of a simple thinker.
Same.
So I like binary. I like binary decisions. I mean this. I mean it. I want as frictionless a decision-making environment as possible. And so, I think coaches who overcomplicate their rosters by and I understand why. They'll say, well, this guy thinks he wants to come back for a 6th year. And I'm like, just let them transfer somewhere and be adults and move on. I think that the COVID year thing has forced coaches to just hold on to players, so on and so forth. And I think it's better to just kind of keep going and replenish your roster and, get guys out in 4 years and fare well. And now there's exceptions. Offensive linemen usually need a redshirt year, and that's smart. But a lot of the guys just play and go and see what happens. So we'll see what happens with Sim.
We're talking with Sam McKewon of the Omaha World-Herald. Another spot on offense that has been kind of in flux, and I'm not sure where that's going, is that running back spot. Anthony Grant found himself third on the depth chart for the second time this year, mostly we think because of ball security issues. What do you think the rest of the year looks like for Anthony Grant? I mean, does you think there's still an opportunity for him to kind of earn back that trust, or I guess, how do you think that plays out?
I do think there's a chance for him to earn back that trust. Yes, I do. I think, for one thing, the ball security of the other guys isn't perfect. Fleeks dropped the ball. I thought Emmett Johnson played really well, played really hard, ran really hard, and deserves another chance to play and start next week, provided his practice is good. So, yeah, I think Grant's still got a chance for sure. I think Rhule's a guy that's going to give people chances when he sees that they've produced. Look at the way that they play on defense. Look at the number of players that are playing on offense. He'll give Grant another chance, and there's probably going to be a circumstance where they need Grant. Johnson needs a breather. Fleeks isn't playing well or something. And so I think there'll be a circumstance where they have to use him again. Emmett Johnson, I'll be really curious to see. I'm sure, obviously, I think they'll start this week too, but I'll be curious to see, how he does just absorbing punishment for another football game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's not 6'2" and 225 pounds. He's 5'10", 5'11", 190 in the Big Ten. And so he is a tough guy to want to do that and to play between the tackles like that. But so is Rahmir Johnson, and Rahmir Johnson's gotten banged up a lot. So we'll see how Emmett Johnson does just absorbing that punishment.
Sam, who's one guy on this team that continues to wow you? a performance you look forward to assessing week to week or have high expectations for, and he always finds a way to exceed it?
Hutmaker's been really good this year.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, he's been good. He's very agile, more agile than he was before anyway. And gets after the quarterback. Good pass rusher from that nose tackle spot. Been impressed there. Jamari Butler's played really hard, so his effort is terrific. And he's becoming a leader. He's becoming a leader in that room. Maybe learning from Ty Robinson. So. Those are two guys, and then I just love the way John Bullock plays the game. He's undersized, and he's not a Jack Gamble out there. Jack Gamble's 6'3" and 230, but Bullock just plays the game. He plays really hard, and he plays without much concern for what he'll go through physically. But he's remained healthy all season long, and reminds me of a guy that used to play at Nebraska named Matthew May. Back in the early Bo era, 2010, 2011, back in there. May was the same way, very fast, very physical. He played safety, I think. And Bullock reminds me of that, but Bullock is at linebacker because I think Rhule wants a faster defense. And so, they've moved Bullock down to linebacker, and they have the safeties that they do. So probably those three guys have jumped out to me on offense. I'll say this much. Harburg, there's things about his game that you could really like. I think he was over the line on that first third down conversion. I was surprised Northwestern didn't challenge it. But that was a good play. That was, rolling to his left and dancing between the line of scrimmage there and finding Bullock. That was a really good play. And, so there's things about Harvard's game that continue if it just all comes together over the course of the end of this season and the off season. There are things to like about him. And yeah, he missed a few throws, but you just got to keep with him. I think he's growing each week, and he's got a nice personality. And I think I think they'll tell him he's got to toughen up in some areas, but I don't mean that he's soft, but I just mean mentally tough and preparing each week to really, to not take as many hits as he does. There's just things that as he grows as a player, I think he's got some real tools. And I think they would be better off trying to develop that than, unless you can get an elite transfer quarterback, they'd be better off trying to develop Harburg than trying to find that guy. And you know what? One of the things that's true, those guys are all going to the NFL. They're all going. The best transfer quarterback you can get, and we've seen this now with the Big Ten West, there just isn't that guy. All the West went and got quarterback. I think the guy produced the best one of the bunch, Hudson Card, but they get hurt. They're overwhelmed. Like, you might as well just develop the guy you got on your roster and make him the best player he can be. And I think they're going to try to do that. The end of the season, we'll see, but I think in the off season, they're going to put a lot into Harburg and try to coach him up so that come next year, he's a little bit more polished and a little bit more clear about what he needs to do, because he's already a good athlete.
Sam, speaking of development, one of the, I guess, sort of developmental projects we saw on display on Saturday was James Williams on the defensive line, who played really well, a guy that was on the scout team, according to Matt Rhule, even earlier in the week. As you hear him talk about James Williams and you hear him talk about some of the other guys that are currently on scout team, I guess what kind of goes through your mind about what the future of at least the defense looks like, right? I don't know that we've heard as many of those types of stories about guys on the offensive side of the ball, but defensively on a unit that's already pretty good. And then you hear Matt Rhule kind of talk about, hey, we've got all these other guys that are really hard to deal with on scout team. And then you see proof of it with a guy like James Williams. Just what are your thoughts on sort of the development of that defensive unit?
I think it's getting good. I think they have to continue to come along. They're not going to have some of these players forever. They inherited 4 or 5 good players. They did. Newsom's a good player. And Robinson's a good player. Hutmaker's become a good player. Reimer's a good player. Gifford's a good player. They won't be around forever. You're going to see a kind of a cycle through here at probably by the end of 2024. Most of these guys will be gone, and some of them will be gone at the end of 2023. Newsom's going to go to the NFL for sure. So, I think you've got to continue to recruit players and develop them and continue that cycle. I mean, I like the things that they're doing. You don't always know what you need to know until about 3 years in, and then you start to see who's been recruited, maybe even 4 years in. Who are your recruits versus who were the guys that were there before? And as an example, Tom Allen's a great example. I mean, Indiana was a pretty darn good football team in 2019 when Kalen DeBoer's calling their plays, and Michael Penix and Jalen Ramsey are the quarterbacks, and they've got some football players that were not recruited by Tom Allen. They were recruited by other people. And so once all those players left, then all of a sudden it didn't look quite the same. And that happens. And I'm not saying Matt Rhule is Tom Allen, but I'm just saying that, like, you have to be patient to kind of see, okay, once these players matriculate out, what do you bring in? Scott Frost did not bring in enough good players on the offensive side of the ball. And it showed. And it's showing now. The offense last year was Casey Thompson and Trey Palmer and everybody else. And they had to bring those guys in. They had to buy them, basically, through NIL. And it's kind of that way this year, too. They just don't have a ton of players. So that side of the ball has clearly languished because of bad recruiting. And they've got to get better there. Defensively, I thought they brought in better players because Travis Fisher was a good recruiter, and Eric Chenander had a good eye for certain guys. And so, yeah, I mean, I think they're gonna continue to develop on that side of the ball. The one thing I'd add is, once you add USC, Oregon, UCLA, and Washington to the element, to the conversation, and you wash out some of these Big Ten West teams that have really struggled in the transfer portal era. And I'm going to write about this eventually, how the offenses have gotten worse and the defenses have gotten better. And some of this is because of the portal. It's going to change. Nebraska would not hold Oregon to 9 points. And Oregon come in here and put 35 on Nebraska or 42. I mean, they're good. It's a good team. Nebraska would subsequently score more points too. Washington would come in and give Nebraska fits. I mean, Colorado scored 36. And Colorado's got flaws, but one of their flaws is not scoring. Colorado could score. And, they put 36 on Nebraska, and, they could have put more on. So I think there's, that's going to change things too. And this league needs it. Big Ten football league, it's rough right now. And it needs more good offense because we're not seeing nearly enough.
Sam McKewon from the Omaha World-Herald. Sam, we appreciate your time. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, Sam.
That's Sam McKewon from the Omaha World-Herald, and we are brought to you by Dyer Law. If you have been injured in an accident or any other issue, you can count on the Dyer Law team to provide you with a helping hand no matter what you're dealing with. Call the Dyer Law team, 402-393-7529, or chat with a professional at dyer.law. That's DYER.law. More of Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next.
We will be back. 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 You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Harburg under center. Fleeks is the deep back. Wide receivers left and right. Turn. Back to throw. A play action look. Heiberg going to take a shot downfield. Has a man wide open. Malachi Coleman makes the catch. Touchdown, Nebraska.
Welcome back. We're halfway through the show here on a Monday on Hurrdat Sports Radio. I'm Ravi Lulla. Andrew Rogers here with me as well.
Are you looking at YouTube at all
right now?
We're getting a
Our
lot of
comments.
We're getting a lot of heights. From quarterbacks.
Our guy. Yeah, I don't really know how we got down that path, but here we are. We are brought to you on AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, and we're brought to you by our friends at the Beanery. They've got 4 great locations: Gretna, Papillion, Ashland, and a new one on 168th and Giles. They roast their own coffee, locally owned and operated. Get hot, iced, frozen specialty drinks. You can get some snacks in there too, breakfast sandwiches, whatever you're looking for. The Beanery, they are serving people coffee. We were talking in the break a little bit here, and not about quarterback heights like they are in the in the YouTube chat.
And Dave just added in he's 6'1".
Good for you, Dave. 5'9" here. Been the same height since about 50.
I'm maybe 6 on the dot. I'm probably like 5'11" and 3/4 or something. But
we'll call it 6 with shoes.
Yeah, you know what?
Call it an even 6.
Put my maxes on, and there I go.
I had
an inch or two.
I had myself listed at 5'11" in college. I certainly am not. It's not a real thing. But no, we were talking about over the break, after talking to Sam there, and Coach Rhule said this, and I think people kind of look at it and be like, yeah, that's possible that they could win every game left on the schedule, right? You look at that schedule and you're like, hey, every game is winnable. Do I think they're going to win every game? No, that's just generally not how Nebraska has been, and so I don't find that likely. But you look at the schedule, every single game on that schedule is winnable. And if that happens, Nebraska would very likely find themselves in the Big Ten championship game. And you asked me, you go, Nebraska could make the Big Ten championship game, right? And I go, God, I hope not.
And then we looked it up, and they sure can.
And I feel a little bad saying that, right? Because, okay, a division title would be a cool deal. It would be obviously progress for the program. But my Lord, do I not want to see them have to play Michigan, Ohio State, or Penn State?
Yeah, maybe for the game itself, that would be rough. But for the ability to use that in recruiting, that'd be a great tool to have in the belt.
So here's what I want to happen, okay? This is, I think, the best case scenario.
You hope they get second in the Big Ten West?
Well, no, here's the thing, right? So if they win out and Minnesota wins out, except for the Ohio State game, because Minnesota's not being Ohio State, they would be tied for the Big Ten West title, but Minnesota has the tiebreaker because they beat Nebraska head-to-head. They would both have 3 losses in the Big Ten West, and I believe they would be tied for...
Well, so Nebraska would have to lose to Maryland. Because you said Nebraska will win out. And if Nebraska wins out and Minnesota loses to Ohio State, Nebraska would still have it. So it would be the loss to Maryland.
Nebraska loses one on the way out. Minnesota loses one on the way out. Or if they both win out for some reason, right? They would end up at
imagine if Minnesota beat Ohio State.
They would either end up with both 2 losses or both 3 losses. And then Nebraska could say, hey, Big Ten West co-champs, right? You could still claim the title in recruiting, and you don't have to go get slaughtered in Indianapolis. That's the best case scenario here, because whatever goodwill you can garner in recruiting or anything else or among the fan base goes away pretty fast with like a 56-0 in Indianapolis. Okay.
Maybe, because even if that happens, what would Nebraska's record be? 9-3?
It'd be 9-3 if they went out, 8-4 if we have this other scenario. Listen, if they win 9 games, everybody's really happy.
9-3 season, even if you get blown out in the Big Ten championship game, what bowl game are you playing in? You're playing in a pretty solid bowl game.
You're doing okay. You're probably like a holiday bowl-ish.
And you could recover in that bowl game. Say you win that bowl game. No one remembers what happened in the Big Ten championship game. No one's going to remember that.
I don't know. People still remember getting smoked by Wisconsin like 72-24 or whatever that thing was back in when the Taylor Martinez day. Like that's what I'm afraid of, is something like that happening, because that game, Nebraska had beaten Wisconsin earlier in the year. That game basically soured the entire season for Nebraska.
But I could, if you were a 5-star offensive tackle,
sure,
and I went to you in recruiting and I said, Ravi, we were 9-3 last season, and with you and this person and that person, if we combine the 3 amigos, we could be 9-3 again, but win the Big Ten, or we could be 10-2 or whatever. And like that's what I mean by the recruiting tool is it's kind of just a bit of ammunition. It's just an extra clip.
How different is that than being like, hey, we're 8-4 with you, we can take that next step? Like, how different of a pitch is that?
Well, it's different just because you played in those bigger games, in those bigger moments recently, and those go a long way.
I mean, I think the bowl game kind of accomplishes that for you.
It does, but if you win the Big Ten, you won't. Right? Let's get if out of there. You won't. But in some utopia, la la land, whatever you want to say, you win the Big Ten championship game. Now you play in an even bigger bowl game, and like things can amount from there. So it's just more of how competitive you are when you're in that game for you, right?
Yeah,
your brain is how competitive can you be if you're in that?
And I don't think they can
be
being
competitive.
I don't think they can be competitive in that game.
But it goes a long way just saying you have that on your resume.
Isn't
playing in a championship game, wouldn't that have more weight than playing in a bowl game? I mean, depending upon the bowl, as long as it's not like a New Year's Six bowl or something like that, but just a regular bowl game compared to playing in the Big Ten championship. Doesn't the Big Ten championship carry more weight?
I would say the bowl game would nationally, just because nationally viewed, that's what people tend to remember than your conference championship game. Like there will be a ton of people watching
unless
that
you win
weekend.
it, or
Right.
if it's if you had a marquee conference championship game, there's some of these where it's been Georgia and Alabama in the SEC, these marquee championship games that people remember because they're two really good teams. You're basically playing for a spot in the college football playoffs.
So playing in Shreveport carries more weight than playing in Indy.
I mean, it depends on your situation because the Big Ten West is a joke and everybody knows it, right? So winning the Big Ten West doesn't mean anything national.
Right. If you were in the ACC or the Pac-12 and you were two ranked teams, and
like say you're going to be Oregon going and playing Utah, or you're Washington, you're going to go play USC or whatever. Like that matters, right?
Same thing
But
in the Pac or the Pac.
The Big
ACC.
Ten West is literally just a sacrificial lamb for the Big Ten East. Like there is, and everybody knows it. It's not like the Big Ten West being terrible is a national secret. Everybody knows it. It's a joke on Twitter every Saturday where people are like, oh, Iowa and Minnesota, Nebraska. Like people are literally keeping track of punts during the game to see who has the punt lead.
I'll tell you what,
Big
though,
Ten West
Robbie,
games.
I'll tell you what, a movie ending, give me a theatrical ending, and you're looking at a team right now, or any team in the Big Ten West, when they take on the juggernaut in the Big Ten East and say they come and put together some magic on the field. They had some trick plays. They went on a long field goal. Boom. You just wrote a pretty nice story. And a story that is so memorable that no one will forget that you just took down that opponent. It's better to be in the nothing to lose scenario than everything to lose.
Yeah, I would rather be in the scenario where I'm just not in that game. I would love to go 7-5, 8-4. Just be one game out of that. Be like, hey, that's a hugely successful season for Nebraska. A great improvement. You're in your first bowl game since 2016. I have zero interest in playing in a Big Ten championship game with Nebraska's current roster.
But if you get to the Big Ten championship game, even if you get smashed, think about what bowl game you could be playing in. Like you could jump in a bowl game just because you got that far in your conference.
Yeah, I don't know because you're still looking. I mean, so Nebraska's going to get a bump in their bowl game anyway because the bowl committees know how Nebraska travels. So they're going to, I mean, like Oklahoma's a great example last year. They were 6-6. They got a bump in their bowl game because they travel, right? That's going to be the same thing with Nebraska. I don't think the Big Ten championship game changes anything. Nebraska's going to get a bump in their bowl game because of the number of fans, especially with the drought in bowl games. Nebraska's going to get a huge bump.
Robbie, it changes everything when Nebraska wins.
Nebraska's not going to win that game. This isn't Hoosiers, right? This is like, I don't know. What movie is there a massacre at the end of it? That's what
Facing the Giants.
I don't. I'm trying to think of like a war movie or something where it just ends really poorly. Like that is what's happened. That's the Big Ten championship game. We're not playing Hoosiers here. All right. This is a disaster if Nebraska plays it.
And if you look at it realistically, Nebraska as a team right now just isn't in shape to play.
No, that's what I mean.
A fully healthy Michigan team,
like
a fully healthy Ohio State team. They're just not. They're so depleted on their roster that they just don't have the bodies to match up.
It's not like that wouldn't be fun for anybody. I have no interest in doing that.
But at least you have that to lay your head on if you are in that game. You're like, well, we weren't supposed to win anyway.
No, I'm just gonna lay my head on my nice little bowl game and go home. Like that's all I want.
Don't tell me you won't be watching that game.
Yeah, I'll watch it with like through little like closed out, like I watch horror movies, just like cover my ears and put my head down. Coming up next, we have we've got Nick Athan at 9 o'clock to talk about the Chiefs. Before that, let's get into a little NFL next year.
Let's do it
on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back.
Right down the seam. The out of Ohio State. Snap placement. He's going to save it for the rookie out of Ohio State. Snap placement. Kick on the way. And it is good. No less from 52 is money. Hurt to the gun. Hurt to the
You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Hurts in the gun. Hurts backpedals. He pumps. He looks. He fires. He completes it. Breaking away. Running into the end zone. A.J. Brown. The Eagles take the lead.
pistol formation. Play fake to him this time. Gino's going to throw right down the seam. Touchdown, Seahawks. JSN with the touchdown. His first career score in the National Football League. Tyler Lockett picks up the ball. He's going to save it for the rookie out of Ohio State. Snap, placement, kick on the way, and it is good. Will Lutz from 52 is money.
Wrapping up hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. I want to tell you about our friends at Alumni Hall. Alumni Hall is your ultimate Husker shopping experience with the best and largest selection of apparel for the whole family. Everything from Adidas to Champion to cool hats like Andrew Rogers is wearing right now.
Bro, Pat.
They have got your needs covered. Visit their 2 Lincoln locations, P Street downtown or in the South Point Pavilion. Or you can visit alumnihall.com anytime. Alumni Hall, where Husker fans shop. Okay, so we were going to talk about NFL, but during that break, we got a little heated about some more college football.
Or me.
Well, yeah,
I got heated.
You got a little heated. You got a soft spot for Cooper DeJean in your heart, which I appreciate.
Mm-hmm.
But so obviously there was
4 players.
What's that?
I said I'm 4 players.
Yeah, there was the controversial ending to that Iowa-Minnesota game where Cooper DeJean takes a punt back to the house that would have given Iowa the 16-12.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not assuming the extra point because you never know with Iowa. But 16-12 lead at the time. pending an extra point, possibly 17-12 on that one. But or maybe they go for 2, make it 18-12, give it a little touchdown leeway there. Who knows, right? But the point is, the play was reviewed because Cooper DeJean was kind of pinned on the sideline. They thought maybe he stepped out of bounds. They wanted to make sure. When they review the call, they're like, oh, he was kind of making some hand motions. Technically, he's not allowed to return it after that. And they overturned the touchdown call and said he made an invalid fair catch signal and brought it all the way back. And your argument, and I think it's very fair,
which is rare.
Yeah, most of the time I'm like, this guy's nuts. But your argument was, A, that's not even what they were reviewing. B, this is something that happens all the time and is never called. And C, they didn't make the call on the field. If they had made the call on the field, correct me if I'm wrong here, if they had made that call live in real time and said, hey, you're not allowed to return it after the ball is bounced and you're making arm signals of any kind, because that's what the rule is. If the ball bounces or touches somebody and you're making arm signals, that is an invalid fair catch signal. The ball is dead. You're not allowed to touch it. Okay, that's the rule as it's written, even though it is never enforced that way. If they'd called that in real time, you're okay.
I'm cool with it. Because
don't love the call, but you're okay.
Right, I'm cool. Well, I wouldn't really understand it. Like, I'd be like, why did they call the play dead?
And then somebody on Twitter would come up and you'd be like,
or
that's
I'd hear the
rule.
broadcasters like explain it, and I'd be like, oh, I'd never heard that called.
Yeah, you don't see it called a lot, but I guess
right.
Okay,
I would have just been like, oh, that's never called. But you took away the big moment for one.
Yeah.
But then two, like you're putting bodies in harm's way again.
Yeah.
By not calling that play dead. There were 5 or 6, maybe 7 Minnesota players all going after Cooper DeJean and could have easily clobbered him. Or somebody on, Iowa or Minnesota could have been hurt on that play because you let it play on. Now that happens in every football play, so that's not like my primary worry. What the big thing was this. You let the play develop. You let the play happen. You go back and review something that wasn't even a part of the review at first, and then you claim that he made invalid signals when indeed, yes, it does happen all the time. But just because something happens all the time, it doesn't mean that, okay, like it should never be called. Like that's not what I'm saying here. But ultimately, that just kind of fires me up a little bit because there were so many people on Twitter posting the rule.
Yeah.
And the rule, even when you read it, still, I don't know if it matched up perfectly to what Cooper DeJean was doing.
Sure.
Because his left hand, to me, from one angle, yes, looked like he was making some arm circles as he's running toward the ball. He's kind of balancing, right? And maybe it got close to above his head in that angle, maybe not. But we're looking at it from above.
I thought he was telling his guys to stay away.
And that's kind of what he was doing, though. But as he's running, like
I thought he was pointing at it and telling guys, stay away, stay away.
That's what it looked like to me. Too, when people try to keep their balance, they go wide. They go wide with their arms. That's how a lot of people keep balance. But then you look at it from the angle of Cooper DeJean coming to the football, and his arm never got above his shoulder.
No, I didn't think so either.
Never got above it.
Yeah.
But that's still apparently a part of the rule because you can't point and tell your guys where the ball is going to be.
If it's bounced on the ground, yeah.
There is something, though, that I learned a little bit ago that people always ask for more examples. Show me the examples. Show me these other times where it's never called. What did I do to you last night? I sent you a post of what?
Of about a half dozen, maybe more, of almost the exact same play. Guys taking it to the house or making big returns where the ball bounces.
He's pointing at it.
They're pointing at it. They're kind of waving their guys off, whatever it is, doing a little swim move, but very similar motions to what Cooper DeJean was doing. They pick it up, they take it to the house. Nobody has any questions, right? And here's the thing. Every scoring play is reviewed, right? Every scoring play is looked at in the booth. Actually, every play is reviewed in the booth. Like they look at everything in the booth, and you never see that called back.
Ever. Absolutely.
On almost identical plays.
Why did it change today? Why did it change
and
over
that's
the
a
weekend?
Fair question. And I don't know. I don't
every
have
scoring play is reviewed. Every single one.
Yeah, so I mean, in college, right, every play is reviewed. Like every single play is reviewed, and then you can challenge on top of that, right? But yeah, I don't have a good answer on why this one was the one that was called back. I don't have a good answer.
And I know a lot of people are going to say like, "Oh, Iowa had 2 yards of offense in the second half," and it's a great point. Like, why did it have to come down to this one play?
Sure.
But the fact of the matter is, that's Iowa football. Iowa football is 2 to 20 yards of offense and relying on Cooper DeJean to run a kickback. So that's how they win games.
So the thing for me is two things can be true at the same time. You can say at the same time that is a very strange call for the officials to make. That is almost never called. I literally don't think I've ever seen it called. I mean, that's not to say it's never been called.
It's like when illegal equipment was called in a hockey game I was watching. Like, I've never seen that called.
Yeah.
But then when the rule went back, it was, this certain player has a longer stick than other players in the league because of his height, and that's why he's able to use the longer stick. But if it goes into the hands of somebody smaller, it's an advantage because they have a longer stick to poke with.
Yeah. So it's something that is rarely, if ever, called. Does it mean it's the wrong call? No, but it is super unusual. And that can be true. And it can also be true that Iowa had plenty of opportunities to win the game before that, and they didn't, right? They had, I think I saw on Twitter, they had the ball in plus territory with 90 seconds left. They needed maybe 15, 20 yards to get a field goal and still couldn't get it done, right? They ended up losing yards. They're nowhere in field goal range. Like, Iowa had plenty of opportunities to win the game, and it was still a super strange call, right? Like, both of those things can be true at the same time. And I think they are true at the same time. I get this a lot with basketball, right? Because, you get these end of like Creighton at last year and in the Elite Eight was a really good example. The San Diego State guy gets a foul call that I thought was a really tough call in that situation, and they make the free throws. They go to the Final Four, and Creighton ends up losing, right? Did Creighton have other opportunities to win that game? 100%. Did I still not love the call in that situation? 100%. Both things can be true at the same time, right? It doesn't have to be mutually exclusive. Just because Iowa had other opportunities to win that game doesn't mean the refs still didn't do the best job they could have, right? And it's really weird with refs sometimes because I feel like sometimes they get it sort of in their own heads about the letter of the law versus kind of the spirit of the law. You get that a lot of times in with replay situations where you didn't before, right? Where, like, you want to have a situation where you get the calls right. Like, baseball is a really good example. When guys slide into a bag and there's a millisecond where they pop off the bag, but listen, they beat the throw, they were safe. Everybody knows that guy should be safe. That's the spirit of the law, is that you should be safe on that play. But if you hold the tag on and you wait and that guy pops off the bag for a millisecond, boom, all of a sudden because of replay, they're out. Is that what the replay was intended to do? No, it was intended to fix things when you blatantly miss a call.
It was intended for the Armando Galarraga.
That's exactly the one I was thinking of, where Armando Galarraga has a perfect game. Jim Joyce, I think it was, blew the call.
Oh, no, Jim Joyce.
At first by like a full half step, and it's not close. That's what replay is designed to fix, not, okay, there's this obscure rule that we never call. And I feel like that's the biggest detriment that we've had from replay is these refs get so far into their heads about the letter of the law versus the spirit of the law.
Typically, though, when things are going bad, and we've seen it with the Nebraska football team, but when things are going bad, there's going to be some weird stuff that pop up like that.
Right.
And it's just inevitable, and it just happens.
And on YouTube, Red Wine chimes in and says, if the ball is kicked and the return man is waving his arms around, ... The fact is, he's not really waving his arms around. As much as people thought they saw it on the broadcast, if you look at the local TV angles that, like, the local reporter shooting the game, his right arm is pointing out.
He's pointing
and
at the
left
ball.
arm is kind of like giving him momentum. But even if he's doing like a mini arm circle as he's like running,
kind of be like, hey, get out,
right?
get out.
It never goes like this.
Right.
You don't ever see the Forrest Gump wave as he's coming back into the harbor.
And that's the spirit of the law versus letter of the law thing, right? Because technically the letter of the law is after it bounces or after it hits somebody is you can't move your arms at all. You can't make any arm signals above the head, below the head, whatever, right? But that's not how it's ever called, right? In practice, that's not how it's ever put into practice. So it's a really tough look for Iowa. Almost as tough.
Still a great look for Cooper DeJean, though.
Oh, great look for Cooper DeJean. And always a tough look for Iowa's offense. That's the moral of the story.
And Cooper,
here.
He's going to be a first-round pick next year, and his ability to do that on any play,
yes,
scouts are paying attention.
Absolutely. Coming up next, we've got Nick Athan from ChiefsBlitz.com. We want to talk a little NFL, little Kansas City Chiefs here on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. We will be back.
Now Mahomes darting to his right. He's holding it, fires it late. He's got Marquez Valdez-Scantling, right sideline, 10, 5, stretches out with the left shoulder. Touchdown, Kansas City. No flags on the field. This one stands for 46 yards. No flags on the field. No flags on the No flags on the field. Now Mahomes. We will be back. Now Mahomes.
You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Now Mahomes darting to his right. He's holding it, fires it late. He's got Marquez Valdez-Scantling, right sideline, 10, 5, stretches out with the left shoulder. Touchdown, Kansas City. No flags on the field. This one stands for 46 yards.
Kicking off hour number 3 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. I'm Ravi Lulla. Andrew Rogers here with me. We are on ESPN Tri-Cities, AM 590 ESPN Omaha, and for hour number 3, we are on KFOR in Lincoln, and we're brought to you by our friends at Dingman's Collision Center. They've been in business for over 25 years in Omaha, and they've been first place Best of Omaha for 18 years running. They have 4 great locations throughout the metro area, and they can work on any make and model because they invest in the latest technology. They also invest in the community with their give back program for every car repair. Go to dingmans.com for more information. And for more information on the Kansas City Chiefs, we're joined now by Matt Athan of ChiefsBlitz.com. How are you this morning?
Hey, good. It's Nick Athan, by the way.
Nick, I'm sorry. I apologize.
Right.
What'd you say? I said Matt.
You've been on the show for 3 hours. I got you.
No, our next guest is named Matt. I got him mixed up. That's my bad.
Nick, don't worry. I got your name. I got your name bolted in on top, so that won't happen with me.
But you are from ChiefsBlitz.com. Make sure you go check out Nick's work over there. Again, I do apologize. Wanted to obviously the Chiefs are off to another good start to the season, but it's looked a little bit different from an offensive standpoint. They were a little bit more explosive yesterday against the Chargers, but there's been times this year where the offense has looked a little bit sluggish. What have you made of the sometimes offensive struggles of the Chiefs so far this year, and how much do you attribute it to kind of a lot of the changes in the wide receiver room?
Yeah, I think it's all that. I think it's just a change in the wide receiver room. You've got some really talented young guys, and Sky Moore, Rashee Rice is kind of coming into his own, kind of starting to fill that Juju Smith-Schuster role that was so effective last year when he was here. Kadarius Toney, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, they lost Watson. I mean, this offense is just different, and everybody expects that Tyreek Hill kind of offense explosion, and we don't have him anymore. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I mean, Mahomes threw to 11 different guys last night or on Sunday afternoon. And you look at the way he's had to kind of train these guys and how he's had to work with these guys individually and say, hey, just because we don't have the best offense right now and just because we're in a learning curve doesn't mean we're not supposed to win football games. And I think that's an aspect that not enough people are talking about. The league changed last year, kind of the way they defended Mahomes. They didn't have Tyreek Hill this year. They're just sitting back and doing all this zone coverage. And, I think yesterday we saw what kind of damage that will do. If Mahomes has enough time, a lot of routes are going to become open. Guys were running harder yesterday. They seem to be in a different gear. And if this continues to evolve, then I don't think we're going to have this conversation about the offense struggling anymore. This is by far, I think, their best offensive output. Though it was the Bears, they had a pretty good game, but this is a better team. It's a division team, and honestly, if it wasn't for a couple of turnovers, the Chiefs probably would have put up 40 to 45 points.
Nick, when you look up and down this roster, regardless if they're full of superstars or not, every year are the Chiefs always viewed as a Super Bowl caliber team when Patrick Mahomes is the quarterback?
Yeah, with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, as long as that combo's together. And I'll throw Matt Nagy in there too, because I think he brings an extra element to the offense, especially with the young receivers and his patience in developing them. As long as those two guys are there, you can see it. I mean, you go from Super Bowl 54 to 56, and only like 14 or 15 guys were left over. And the expectation this year is to go to the Super Bowl. The expectation is to go to the Super Bowl every year. And I don't think that's going to change despite the roster. But as long as these two guys are together, and you got to obviously throw Travis Kelce into the mix, who's probably going to play a couple more years than he and Taylor Swift to go make babies and live happily ever after. But, until that happens, this team, it's the best team in football, and it's not particularly close. I know there's some talent on the NFC side, but you can see in the AFC, Lamar Jackson is great one week and terrible the next week. Josh Allen is struggling in Buffalo. We don't really know what the Bengals are at this point because now we're going to find out because their schedule gets a lot tougher.
Mm-hmm.
And you just look around the NFL and what are the Chiefs? The Chiefs are the most consistent team. They've been the most consistent team the last 5+ years. They've got 5 straight AFC, title games in Kansas City, probably going to make it 6. Probably have a chance to go back-to-back Super Bowls. But to answer your question in a very long-winded manner, these are the guys. This is the team to beat. This is the gold standard of the NFL right now. And the only reason that the talking heads talk about all these other teams from week to week, and trust me, the narrative today is the Baltimore Ravens are going to unseat the Kansas City Chiefs because they beat up on a Lions team that struggled in the win conditions and their expectations of being, I thought, one of the best teams in the NFC. So, listen, this football team is unique. Chiefs fans need to embrace this era because it's never going to come around again. Enjoy it as long as it lasts.
Nick, as much as the offense has struggled or, taken a little while to get going, the defense has been just on the opposite side of the coin, really, really good this year.
And I think a lot of people did not expect that.
Yeah, I guess what are some of the things that you've seen from them where they've gone from, solid to situationally good to one of the better defenses in the league?
Yeah, it's nothing I saw coming. I mean, I thought from the onset, from even in the loss to the Lions without Chris Jones, they were playing great. That's a good offense. Mm-hmm. They held to 21 points. And then you just started to watch it unfold throughout the season. And, Chris Jones finally decided to end his ridiculous holdout. And what was great about it was these guys they're young. There's a few veterans mixed in. They made a couple of key acquisitions in Drew Tranquill, and we saw Charles Omenihu for the first time yesterday after his 6-game suspension. And you just look at it, they're confident, they're cohesive. They all play hard for one another. I mean, Steve Spagnuolo, who should probably get some interviews as an NFL head coach, during the playoffs, has done a tremendous job. And Joe Cullen, the defensive line coach, he deserves a lot of props. Guys like Mike Dan. I mean, I wrote Mike Dan off like, why is he on the roster? He can't do anything. And all of a sudden, he's been able to push linemen back and get sacks. He had another one yesterday. L'Jarius Sneed, continues to be one of the top corners. Willie Gay is playing, I think beyond his limits, which is really great to see. And, George Karlaftis, and you can kind of go down the list. And a lot of these guys are not household names. I haven't even mentioned McDuffie yet. And they're just playing in a way in which is so refreshing. And I commented on our YouTube show that I think this defense has a chance to be as good as the 69 Chiefs. Because that 69 Chiefs team, they were loaded with stars and they were just dominant. And this defense is becoming that way too. Now, listen, they were terrible in the first half against the Chargers, but they came out in the second half, made some adjustments, pitched the shutout. And that's important note. Sometimes you're not on your A game. The offense carried them in the first half, and the defense just shut them down in the second half. So when you have that kind of combination, it's just quite remarkable to sit there and go, and this defense is really good. Are they really top 5? I mean, I think they're probably in the top 3 of defenses. They're not giving up a lot of points, and they just play hard for one another, and that just starts with great coaching.
Nick, you made me laugh a little bit there when you brought up Steve Spagnuolo to be a head coach, because I grew up in St. Louis and watched him coach the St. Louis Rams. And that obviously didn't go too well. And then I moved my fandom over to Chicago as of late. My dad's from Chicago, and I had to watch Matt Nagy coach up there. So by you bringing up those two names, it kind of puts me in a depressing state of mind. Well, I'll just say
at
that.
least Matt got you guys in the playoffs. So
I don't know if that was Matt or our defense, because that defense was unbelievable. You talk about the 69 Chiefs. Let's talk about that Bears defense.
That was a great. He was blessed with some really great defense, and he had some poor quarterback play. But I think under the circumstances, he did the best he could. Listen, I'm just glad he's back in Kansas City, because I think he's done a terrific job in teaching these young kids. He spends a lot of time with the wide receivers, and I think it's starting to pay dividends.
Hey, one quick thing here, because you mentioned Sky Moore's name too earlier on, and I asked Ravi this question last week because it was when Steve Smith called Jerry Jeudy a jag, just another guy, and so that's kind of how I think about Sky Moore a little bit, like just another guy, somebody that came in with the expectation, and it was a tough ceiling to hit, but people looked at him as, he could be the next Tyreek Hill, and he just hasn't really amounted to anything in Kansas City. Do you think like that's the trajectory he's on still, is not amounting to anything, or do you think he's progressing in enough of a way to be looked at as a a serviceable wide receiver in the league.
Yeah, I think more serviceable, but I don't think anybody thought Sky Moore was going to be, the next Tyreek Hill. Here's what's interesting about Sky Moore. If you look at his college tape, he ran the best routes and had the best hands of any receiver in college football his senior year. There was nobody at his level. His routes were crisp. They were precise. He had great hands. He knew how to catch the ball. I mean, he was the perfect wide receiver on tape. He got to the NFL last year. I think putting him out there to do special teams, with the fumbles, kind of hurt his confidence. He made a big play in the Super Bowl. And he's had his moments this year, but he's not going to be that, number one guy. Rashee Rice is going to ultimately be the number one receiver for this football team. He is a phenomenal specimen. He's similar to Sky Moore. You look at his tape in college, great route running ability, great position of the hand, good after, yards after the catch. Those two guys, I would put them 1 and 2 of what I saw on film. But one succeeded in the NFL. The other one just is kind of finding his way. But I don't think anybody should give up on him. I think, he's played better the last 2 games. Yeah, he only caught 2 balls for 15 yards yesterday. But, they were important catches in drives. And he ran good routes, and he did what he was supposed to do. So, listen, he's going to be, as all these receivers, Tony and Moore and Rice and MVS, and McCole Hardman, when he gets more involved in the offense. And he had a terrific game yesterday, I thought, for the limited role. That's just what makes this team great. And Mahomes isn't going to fixate on one guy other than Kelsey. And the rest of the guys get open because anybody can catch the ball, and he needs to be ready. So to answer your question, I think Sky Moore is going to be just fine. I don't think he's going to be elite. And I think that everybody will be okay with that if he makes plays in the offense.
Nick, as I kind of look at this Kansas City schedule the rest of the way out, and you mentioned how you think they're still the best team in football, and that's certainly a fair assessment, even though, like you said, there is some talent out in the NFC as well. What do you see being a potential stumbling block, whether it's a stretch of the schedule, whether it's a position group maybe you're not totally sure on? Like, if there is an issue for Kansas City the rest of the way out that prevents them from returning to the Super Bowl or going to a 6th straight AFC title game, what is that stumbling block in your mind?
It's themselves. If they beat themselves, they'll lose. I don't think there's a team on the schedule that can beat Kansas City when they're playing their B+ game. And that's kind of what they've had so far this year. They've had a couple of A games, they've had a bunch of C games, but overall average, they're probably in that BB+ range. And listen, if the Chiefs get out of their own way, they're going to win football games. If they don't have turnovers or stupid penalties in the red zone. I mean, I think they fixed some of the red zone woes yesterday. They played really, really well, I thought, in the red zone. And I think, listen, yes, could the Bills beat them? Sure. Could the Patriots beat them? Sure. Could the Packers? Probably not. Eagles, maybe. Dolphins, maybe. But, these are all teams that have to play almost perfect games to beat Kansas City. I mean, look at the opening game against the Lions. The Lions played, I thought, a perfect football game. And the Chiefs had made mistakes and had turnovers, and the Kansas City only lost that game by a single point. So, listen, they've gotten their A game, or they've gotten the best out of a lot of these teams, but they found a way to win. And if they just don't make mistakes and they stay on the path that they know they're on, and the trajectory that says, hey, it's Super Bowl or bust every single year, I just don't see. I'm not saying the Chiefs are going to run the table, because I think there'll be a loss here or two. I actually think Denver has a really good chance to beat Kansas City this weekend, just because they've played them, so close together, twice in 3 weeks. I think that's extremely difficult for any team to make that sweep. So yeah, that could be a, kind of a point of the, hey, you know what, we didn't play our best, and they're probably looking ahead to playing the Dolphins, who didn't look very good last night against the Eagles. So I think the only team that's going to stop Kansas City are the Chiefs themselves. I just think they're that much better than anybody in the AFC.
That is Nick Athan of ChiefsBlitz.com. Nick, we appreciate your time and your insight on the Chiefs, and I'm sure we'll talk to you again soon.
Sounds great, guys. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Nick.
That is Nick Athan. Nailed it that time.
No flags on the field.
He did say something at the end there that I kind of agree with, but I also think the Dolphins could give them a run for their money. And it's the only team the Chiefs will lose to is themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And where I give him the edge there is because anytime you have Patrick Mahomes quarterbacking your team, I can totally see it.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just somebody that you kind of aspire to have on your team.
Yeah, I mean, it's what everybody's looking for, right? Everybody's looking for Mahomes.
You're looking for somebody that can be as much of a playmaker as Mahomes, but also be the guy that even in 15 seconds of game clock can march you down the field and put you in a position to score points.
If there's any time left on the clock, you look at it and say, too much time for Patrick Mahomes. You left him too much time.
I don't think the Bills are that this year.
No, I don't think Josh Allen's that guy.
And it's weird to see him take as much of a step back as he has, but the Dolphins still, even with that loss to the Eagles last night, they still have one of the best defenses in the NFL. They still have one of the best offenses in the NFL. Tua got caught throwing up a dud there toward the end of the game, like a ball that just stayed in the air way too long that led to the interception. But you have a guy on the outside that, was pretty productive in Kansas City when he played at Arrowhead.
And he's been even more productive in Miami. He's a total game changer.
You have Jalen Waddle, who is a number 1 pick, a wide receiver 2, one of the best wide receiver 2s in the NFL.
Super productive guy, yeah.
You will get Athan back, but you pair him with Raheem Mostert.
Yep.
Line play has been good, giving Tua a lot of time.
And the defense is, like you said, has been way better.
The defense has been unbelievable.
Yeah. That's the thing that was holding them back before, was their defense wasn't good enough. And now,
and they're without Ramsey.
Yeah, you've got Ramsey. I think it's coming back soon is the hope. You've got Bradley Chubb over there. You've got some guys on that defensive line that have emerged this year as well, that they're a dramatically better defense than they have been in years past. And that's really what's made the difference between them being kind of a, maybe, borderline AFC title contender and, hey, this team might be able to win a Super Bowl. Now, a lot of it does depend on how good can Tua be in those marquee moments. And last night he wasn't good enough, right? But long term, do you think, if you think Tua's that guy, and I don't know, to be fair, I really don't know if Tua's that guy. I think the offensive system's in really good shape. I mean, honestly, there's a lot of corollaries between him and like a Brock Purdy, where you like the weapons around him a lot. You like the offensive system a lot. You like the head coach a lot.
You probably like Tua more as a player than Brock
Yeah,
Purdy.
I think he's got a better skill set for sure. And he was obviously way more highly touted coming out of high school, coming out of college. But they're in similar positions in the sense of, it's hard to tell how much is their excellence and how much is the coaching and the weapons around them, because they both have incredible choices in terms of how to dissect a defense. And it's really their job just to make the right decisions. And does Tua probably have more upside than Brock Purdy? I would guess so, right? But again, it's pretty hard to tell because of the systems they're in.
Last year, was it the Browns that gave the Chiefs some trouble in the playoffs? Was it that game that came down to the wire?
That's a good question.
I'm trying to remember what team gave the Chiefs some trouble last year. I want to say it was the Browns, because the Browns are kind of that scrappy team that at any point could give you trouble. If we talk about really good defenses, like the best in the NFL,
their defense is really
that's
good.
The Browns. Like their offense is especially without Nick Chubb, although Jerome Ford has been really, really good for that team. But you're not winning games with Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, so honestly, they played 3 one-score games. Jacksonville, Cincinnati, and Philly were all one-score games in the playoffs. So, I mean, I'm not sure which one. Like,
who was it that the Browns played that they gave an issue to last year? Or was it the Bengals that gave the Chiefs issue?
I mean, the Bengals gave the Chiefs a lot of issues in that.
What was the final?
23-20.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking. Maybe I'm thinking of the other team in Ohio.
So, similar color scheme, same state.
Same conference, same division, rather.
Yeah,
and conference.
It's it's going to be really interesting for me to see, because I'm not quite as high on Kansas City as Nick is. I think they're very good, and obviously, when you've got Mahomes and Andy Reid, you start ahead of everyone else.
The one thing that Kansas City's been in the last 6 years is consistent. I mean, they've been the consistent team out of the NFL.
But that's because of Mahomes.
But we've seen other teams have their moments, but not be consistent, and that's really kind of hurt other teams like Buffalo.
And I should give credit to Andy Reid too.
It's Mahomes and Reid. I'm a huge Andy Reid guy. Like, that's honestly, even a few years back, when the 49ers were playing the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Obviously, I wanted the 49ers to win the Super Bowl, but there was a part of me that was really happy that Andy Reid got a Super Bowl, because he's too good of a coach to not have won a Super Bowl. And now he's got a couple, obviously, so you feel good for him there. But
back when that game was that was a team that I thought could be consistent, but they ended up not being. I mean, they have their moments. They're just not as consistent as Kansas City is.
Well, yeah, because at the time you had Jimmy Garoppolo as the quarterback and not Patrick Mahomes. Like Kyle Shanahan, probably on par with Andy Reid, like pretty close.
Yeah.
They're in the same neighborhood. Kyle Shanahan, for my money, the best NFL coach without a title right now. But
yeah, I would agree.
But the big difference there,
McDaniels is close.
But think about this though with Kansas City.
But I give McDaniels, I give Shanahan some of McDaniels credit too because he's his little protege.
Right.
How many pieces have gone away from Kansas City, and you've had to, with Hill being gone, you've had to replace major parts.
If they lost Travis Kelce,
you didn't have Travis at the beginning of the season. So they've been consistent even without having some of their major pieces.
Yeah, but they've always had Mahomes and Andy Reid.
Right.
And
Mahomes is kind of the X factor here.
Yeah, he's what we talked about.
Somebody that can win a football game even if there's 15 seconds on the clock.
Yeah, he is the Band-Aid that fixes all the other flaws on the team. And
now your defense has to play well too for the Chiefs to win football games, and they are.
Yes.
But
more
times than not, if they're in a football game, it's
Mahomes.
Patrick Mahomes.
And so you're right about Kelce, though. Kelce's interesting because he's been kind of that security blanket, the one constant with Patrick Mahomes that whole time, along with Andy Reid. If he loses Travis Kelce, that's a situation that I think really does change the math.
Well, you know how we talk about WAR in baseball,
and
which is wins above replacement. Like Travis Kelce gives you a positive WAR.
Yeah, absolutely.
But if you lose Travis Kelce, you're probably taking on 2-3 losses in a season.
Yeah. I mean, you very easily could because he covers up for Mahomes. He covers up so many of the deficiencies in their weapons, right? Because they have lost a lot of weapons over the years in terms of wide receivers and players like that. But you've always had Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce with his skill set. And
it's
that,
unmatched.
Yeah. I mean, it's
the way that he finds his openings and zone coverage, the way that he's able to find an opening when Mahomes is scrambling on a broken play.
I mean, it's the same thing as Pete Gronk is Travis Kelce, is
Jimmy Graham when he was in New Orleans.
So it's Jimmy Graham was
he didn't have his long term of a Gronk Kelce, but he was so dominant when he played with Drew Brees.
He was. Their styles are a little different. Graham was more of a vertical athlete than either Gronk or Kelce were. But those guys are like Gronk and Kelce were those guys where no matter who else was on the field for Brady or for Mahomes, you could count on those guys to basically keep the offense functional and moving forward until they could figure it out with the rest of the skill position pieces. So interesting stuff there from Nick. We appreciate his time over at chiefsblitz.com if you want to check out more. Coming up next, I think it's time to play a game.
Shane's World.
Coming up next here on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Do we really have to play that?
Oh, yeah.
Are you serious?
You have nothing to lose.
We will be back. 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 You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Shane's World, party time, excellent.
Okay, right, excellent. Woo! Okay.
That is that can mean it's time for only one thing. It is time for our Shane's World game, and we are brought to you today by Teammates. We're not teammates today. We're playing against each other.
Yes,
but
we are.
If you want to join the Teammates mentoring program, you can have a positive impact on the world by inspiring students to reach their full potential through mentoring. Mentors and mentees meet in school during the day for about 30 minutes once a week to play games, work on crafts, or just have a talk. Go to teammates.org to become a mentor today. All right, it's time for Shane's World. If you remember, we're going to give Shane a prompt.
Mm-hmm.
Andrew and I are going to bet on how many answers Shane can get on that prompt. Whoever wins that bet, or whoever loses that bet has to spin the jelly bean
wheel.
The bean boozle wheel. And each jelly bean has a counterpart that is tasty and one that is disgusting.
So the one that one just landed on was buttered popcorn, rotten egg.
Yeah, so that's kind of a lose-lose. I don't like the buttered popcorn ones either. Like, they're not very good. Like, I love buttered popcorn, but the buttered popcorn jelly beans are not good.
Yeah.
So that is the game, and you get to see us if you're watching on YouTube or on Twitter. You can see us make disgusting faces when we have to eat a bad jelly bean. If you saw the chicken and liver, if you saw the chicken and liver clip last
liver
week,
and onion.
liver and onion, excuse me, liver and onion.
If it was chicken, I'd be at least a little more excited.
Smelled terrible.
Yeah, it was on my breath for the next 4 hours.
That was in your mouth. You can check us out on AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, or KFOR in Lincoln. All right, it's game time. Let's
We're
go.
going with this prompt first, Ravi.
Okay.
How many will Shane get in 10 seconds? I will let you choose first.
5.
Party on.
All right, Shane.
on.
Hold on. Let me bring up my timer here.
Man, I can't believe you went 5 off the rip.
See, I was trying to pick a number you didn't want to go above.
That was something I did not want to go above. That's for darn sure.
All right, let's give him the prompt.
How do you guys know so much about my world?
Hey, Shane.
Shane, we spent a lot of time with you.
Shane, you ready?
Let's do it.
Okay.
You have to name 5.
Shane, name 5 colleges in 10 seconds.
Go.
Iowa, Nebraska, Michigan, Michigan State, and Purdue, Minnesota.
Let's go.
He did 7, 8.
Done.
Good Lord, Shane.
We are done. Love it.
See, my worry there was Shane would get stuck on Nebraska and Iowa. Like, that was my worry.
I love it. That was terrific.
If I would have said 6, would you have gone 7?
I don't know. 5 was the number.
I can do this all day. Penn State, Maryland, Rutgers.
We're past your 10 seconds,
What do you
Shane-o.
got?
This one is, I had this one last week. It was pomegranate old bandage.
Ooh.
Dude, that's probably going to stink if it's old bandage.
I mean,
is it this guy right there?
Yeah, it's that red one, I think.
This guy?
Yeah. Let's give it a go.
So I can see, dude, it looks like there's like an old Band-Aid in here.
They miniaturized
Look
an
at
actual
that.
old
Look at that.
Band-Aid.
All right.
Down the hatch. What do we think? He's chewing it a lot.
That's pomegranate.
Oh, you lucky man, you. All right.
Yeah, it's still pomegranate. I
Okay.
had to make
You're
sure.
like, wait
I
for
don't
it.
know if I was trying to trick my brain.
Either that or you really weirdly like old bandages.
Yeah, that was pomegranate. That was, all right. Yes.
All right, off to a good start.
All right, let's go with this one because I think this one's going to be a little tricky.
I started last time, so you name the number.
I think Shane can get I'm between 2 numbers here.
Pick one. Let's go.
I think Shane can get 3.
Oh.
So you're between 2 and 3. That's probably pretty good. Call.
Yeah, I was definitely between 2 and 3.
This feels like one he's going to struggle on. I'm going to say party on 3.
Party on 3. Shane, do not fail me.
Oh, so it's a push. I don't have to do it?
Oh, no, you got to.
No, you still got to do it.
No.
All right, Shane, you ready for this? Name 3 Adam Sandler movies in 10 seconds. Go.
Waterboy. 51st Date.
Time.
Waterboy's all you got?
I get the date one. 51st Dates.
My goodness.
I got 2.
Bro, Happy Gilmore. We quote it every day.
You haven't quoted it yet today. You just did.
No, I quoted it earlier.
No, you didn't. What'd you say?
Where were you? I quoted it when I walked over there. I said, Happy Gilmore did that just over an hour ago.
No, you didn't.
Sure did. I was in your house.
No, you didn't.
He was in your little
He
snoopy
got
house.
1.
I'll give him the 2.
No, he got 1.
You should have went with 2.
Are we serious?
I got 2. No, Sirius is on the phone.
Spin the wheel.
Oh, no.
What is it?
Strawberry banana smoothie or dead fish?
Oh,
no.
I mean, technically all fish that
It's
you
got to
eat are
be
dead,
this guy, right? Or is this one peach barf? This one looks like peach barf.
Yeah, I don't. Which one's the other one?
What is this guy? Is it this guy?
No, it's like more.
No, it is. Look. I don't know. Both of them stink. It's either peach barf or strawberry banana smoothie, dead fish.
Yeah, I'll allow you to pick. I'm okay there.
Yeah, but I just don't. I want to grab the right one. Is it this guy? Is it this orange?
Ooh, yeah, I think so.
Dude, this one looks like
I can't tell. I really can't tell. They're too
fudge
simple.
monkeys. This one's gonna be bad. I just know it. I don't even want to bite down. I know it's gonna be bad.
Bite it. Just bite it.
Oh! Oh! Gag. Oh!
Is it barf?
Gag. Oh! I don't know. Dude, that's dead fish. Oh! Oh, I gotta spit.
Get it out. Get it out of there.
Oh. Dude. My gag reflex went off 3 times.
I was gonna say you struggled with that one.
I knew it was gonna be bad. I knew it. I gotta drink something.
Thank you, Shane. Appreciate you.
I'm like chewing ice. Dude, I'm shivering.
That's
how bad it is. Oh my god. Dude, can I like sit in the fetal position?
Water. Yeah, get in your knee rocking so you can fall asleep, whatever that is.
Dude, oh my gosh. And you haven't had a bad one yet, so you don't realize that the taste just sits on the back of your tongue and it doesn't go away. Dude, that was a nightmare. That was a nightmare.
That seemed really bad.
We gotta fit one more in there.
I think we should be done for the day.
No, we gotta fit one more. All right, we're gonna go with this one. We're gonna go with that one right there.
Okay.
Dude, my stomach hurts. That was so gross.
At least I couldn't smell that one.
Oh, it's because I'm turning this
I'll say
direction.
you did turn that way, and you spit it out pretty quick.
Dude, that was the most disgusting thing I've ever put in my mouth.
I'm gonna say 4.
That sounds kind of high.
I think Shane can do 5.
That sounds really high.
Party on.
Darn it, Shane, please.
Don't.
Please.
Come on, Shane.
Robbie, you ask him.
Shane, Andrew needs you to name 5 in 10 seconds. Car brands, go.
Ford, Chevy, Buick, Oldsmobile, Toyota. That's 5.
That is 5.
That's all you needed.
That is
Shane,
5.
I freaking love you. Robbie, spin the wheel.
All right, here we go. We have birthday cake or dirty dishwasher.
Why does he always get the good one?
I mean, I don't. Is dirty dishwasher a good one?
I don't know, but it's that spotted one or that spotted one.
It's like this whitish one,
Mhm.
right? All right,
Yep.
here we go. All right,
Here it comes, birthday cake. Everybody ready for
Here
this?
we go. All right, here we go. Just gotta get ready to spit it out. If I'm,
Give me 3 chews.
yeah, that's birthday cake.
You can do the rest of the show by yourself.
I love this game. This game is terrific. It's my favorite game. It's my favorite game. Andrew has left the building. That's all right. Listen, the best part is he invented this game.
How much time did I have? How much time did I have left on that last question? A few seconds?
Yeah, you had a few seconds left still.
That's good to know.
You had a few seconds
I
left.
probably could have got 8 or 9.
Guys, no.
Coming up next, we got Matt Hladik from...
You get birthday cake.
It was delicious. From thespun.com. He's going to talk to us about National College Football. I'm having a great day. Andrew struggled a little bit here on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Dude, I don't think you ever tasted dead fish.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Wrapping up the show today on Hurrdat Sports Radio. Joining us here in just a second is Matt Hladik from thespun.com to cover national college football. And we are brought to you by the Warhorse Sportsbook Casino. It's the best place in Nebraska to place your sports bets. Got to place them in person at the casino, but they've got plenty of kiosks and sportsbook tellers to take your wagers. You can download the Warhorse Casino app to view live odds and build your bets anywhere. Then go to the casino, scan the QR code, and place your wager there. You can go to warhorsecasino.com/sportsbook for more info. And now joining us on that Warhorse Sportsbook hotline is Matt Hladik from thespun.com. Matt, how are you this morning?
I'm doing great, guys. Always a pleasure to be on with you.
We appreciate it as always. Really good week of college football, as long as you weren't watching too much Big Ten West football, that is. Really interesting results. Obviously, the big one was North Carolina falling to Virginia, probably the most surprising result of the week. I guess from your standpoint, even going into that game, how real did you view North Carolina at 6-0 in that one? Did you think they really had a shot as a legitimate college football playoff contender, or did you expect them to stub their toe at some point?
I thought they would lose at some point. I didn't think they'd lose to Virginia, but I think about a couple of weeks ago or so, I ranked the 14 remaining unbeaten teams, and Carolina came in, I believe, 10th. It was, I think, 3 or 4 non-Power 5 teams, and then Carolina and Louisville were right in like that 9-10 range.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't expecting them to get through the stretch unbeaten. I think they're good. I like Drake May, but I thought they would lose at some point. But I have to say I was surprised that loss came at home to Virginia, who had been 1-5.
Want to stay in the ACC real quick with that Florida State team, another undefeated. They stay undefeated with a big win over Duke. Where do you kind of slot them in your teams that are left undefeated? Do you think I've always kind of looked at them this year as maybe just outside of that top group. I think there's some inconsistencies there, but how do you view Florida State as they continue their undefeated season so far?
I view them a notch below the Georgia and Michigan tier. I think those are the two best teams. I think I would put Michigan slightly ahead right now, especially with that Brock Bowers injury. But I think that Florida State is below that. But I do believe that they are a playoff caliber team. I think that, if Georgia and Michigan, let's say, get those first two playoff seeds, I think that you're going to look at, the rest of the field could be, Florida State, if they come out of the ACC undefeated, or maybe even with one loss, depending on what happens elsewhere, or a Big 12, Pac-12 champ. I think Florida State is one of the top four teams. I think they're either third or fourth right now, based on what I saw and what I have seen.
Matt, you could make a case Mizzou is the second best SEC team in the country, currently ranked 16, but you have them as a top what team? And do you think that 16 is too low, too high, or right where they should be?
They are one of the true pleasant surprises, I think, of the college football season. When I look at them, I think that they're probably right about where they should be. If you look at their resume, they have a win early in the season against the Kansas State team that was ranked at the time. But they've fallen out now. They're 5-2, so they're still a solid team, but they're not, one of an elite. They're not top 15 team anymore. Kansas State, obviously, they lost at home to LSU. Nice win at Kentucky. Vandy, South Carolina, teams that are struggling. So I think that you'll see if they deserve to be closer to that top 10 based on how they play in their next two games coming off this bye at Georgia, home against Tennessee. And even the game against Florida too later in the season. For now, I do believe that they're a good team. I think you can make the case that they're the third best team. I would still put them, the second best team. I would still put them third, behind Bama. And they do also have a loss to LSU. So LSU has that case to be ahead of them as well. But I think Missouri is slotted in the polls right where they should be.
Matt, I want to stick in the SEC for a minute. You mentioned Alabama. I want to throw Ole Miss in that discussion as well. Both of them took a loss earlier in the season, and it seems like we kind of forgot about them, but quietly, they're both top 15 teams. They're kind of knocking on that door of being top 10 teams. Which of those two teams, it sounds like you like Alabama a little bit more, but I guess what are the ceilings for those two teams as they kind of work their way back from an early loss?
If you look at Ole Miss's schedule the rest of the year, they should finish with 10 wins.
Mm-hmm.
You assume they lose at Georgia, but the other four games, 3 home games, Vandy, UL Monroe, and Texas A&M, who they should beat those 3 teams. And then at Mississippi State, who's kind of struggling, looking to just kind of make a bowl game this year. Although that is the Egg Bowl, crazy things can happen. But you think that Ole Miss should get to 10 wins. So I'm a pretty big believer in what Lane Kiffin has going on down there this year. I would put Alabama slightly ahead of them for now, and it's not just because Bama beat them. It's funny. I watch Bama a lot, and part of me is not quite sure how they're doing this year, because obviously there's a lot of talent on the roster still, but it's the quarterback play has been so inconsistent, so up and down, but it seems like they get just what they need from Jalen Milroe. If they need him to make a big play or two, he's able to make it. You see, against Tennessee, he didn't have a great first half. They come out down 20-7, and boom, he connects for 2 touchdown passes in the third quarter. They end up winning the game by 2 touchdowns. So it seems like they're kind of getting just what they need from him. I don't think Bama makes the playoff. I think even if they win out and go 11-1, I think they would lose to Georgia in the conference title game. So that would give them 2 losses. So I don't think Bama's a playoff team. I probably would put them a little bit ahead of Ole Miss now at this point, mostly because they seem to be getting just what they need in their offense, and they do have a solid defense as usual in Tuscaloosa.
You mentioned the playoff, Matt. Caleb Williams won't be playing in the college football playoff, nor will he be winning the Heisman this season. I think there's still a lot to be gained, though, for CW in terms of his professional outlook, being a culture changer, not sitting out the rest of the way because nothing is on the line. How important will it be to look at football from that point of view going forward for Caleb Williams? Because when he gets to the league, let's be frank, he's not going to be on a good team.
No, and I think I saw you're kind of referring to the Emmanuel Acho tweet from over the weekend suggesting that he sit out the remainder of the season because there's too much to lose. And listen, I understand players taking care of themselves from a business perspective, whether it's NIL, whether it's sitting out bowl games, things like that. I totally get it. But if you look at Caleb Williams, they have 4 games left. And the remaining 4 games, 3 of them are against ranked teams, including a couple of rivals in Oregon and UCLA. So these are games, they're not meaningless games. And USC is still alive to get to the Pac-12 title game. Now, they're not going to win like you said, they're not going to be a playoff team, but there's still some things left to play for. Now, listen, if he plays the rest of the way and say they go 3-1 and they finish 9-3, and he says, I don't want to play in the Holiday Bowl or something like that, I'm going to give myself a chance to protect myself. I think that's fine. I think maybe some NFL teams would dock him. You never know. But to me, I don't think that would be a big deal at all, and I don't understand it. But I don't think you can sit out a third of your season here just because you lost a couple of games back-to-back and you're out of the playoff chase. I think there's still a lot to play for. I think teams still obviously want to, they know he's talented, but they want to see how he responds to some of this adversity and see how he plays down the stretch against quality opponents. I think he's got to come out and play.
Matt, speaking of a Heisman contender in the Pac-12 that struggled a little bit this weekend, Michael Penix Jr., who was the clear Heisman frontrunner after last week, really struggled against a quite bad Arizona State team. As you kind of look at the Heisman race and how that's shaping up, how much do you think that brought Michael Penix back to the pack in terms of that Heisman contention?
I think it brought him back a little bit. Like you mentioned, he was definitely the odds-on favorite after the win over Oregon. Now, the reports over the weekend that they said that J.J. McCarthy of Michigan is. Marvin Harrison Jr. is making his case as a non-QB, potential non-QB winner. But I do think that the opportunities are there for Michael Penix to still seize the Heisman and get back to the top spot. Because if you look at their schedule, excuse me, they're at Stanford this weekend. That's a game they should obviously win. Then they close the season, USC, Utah, Oregon State, 3 ranked teams, and Washington State, who's on the outside looking into the rankings, but it's a rivalry game, and Washington State's obviously shown themselves to be a pretty good team this year. If he comes out and plays well in those games, and Washington wins the Pac-12, gets to the playoff, there's a chance for him to get back as the Heisman frontrunner and make a run for the trophy. He's not the odds-on favorite anymore. Obviously struggling to beat Arizona State, and the way he played hurt him. But there's still time for him to get back into it.
Matt, quickly here, got about 50 seconds. If the season ended today, the top 4 teams in your college football playoff would be who?
If the season ended today, my top 4 teams would be Georgia, Michigan, Washington, Florida State.
There you go. That is Matt Hladik. That's his college football playoff as of right now from the Spun. Matt, we appreciate your time. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, Matt.
Always a pleasure.
Great stuff there from Matt Hladik.
I believe that was my college football playoff last week, just so everybody knows.
Well, listen, hey, that's we're in good shape there.
Just so everybody knows.
Just so everybody knows.
You know what my college football playoff is?
What's that?
Dirty fish.
Dirty fish isn't even a flavor, but
dead
you try.
Fish,
dead fish,
dirty dishwasher,
dirty dishwater,
dishwasher.
Shane's World, Andrew's favorite game.
It is Shane's World. And
Listen,
you know what? Anything goes in Shane's World.
Anything goes in Shane's World. Anything
Just
goes.
like dead dishwasher.
Anything
right?
goes here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. We'll be back tomorrow.
Dirty fish.